possible maladministration at the facility. Corruption was at the center of a scandal flagged by whistleblower Babita Deokaran, who was assassinated after uncovering 850 million rand in suspicious payments. Officials say current suppliers are likely to be used for recovery efforts. Mongezi Koko has more.
Deputy Health Minister Joe Phaahla, alongside Acting Hospital CEO Dr. Rihanna Lowe, conducted a site visit and briefed the media on the damage and the way forward. Answering an EWN question on whether the fires signal a return to corruption, Phaahla said the procurement process will remain unchanged despite the potential multi-million rand replacement cost.
It will be possible to use existing contracts which have supplied other hospitals can be able to source those equipment.
With no CCTV footage from the affected areas, officials say investigations into the cause could take time. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News, Tembisa.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has nominated candidates for appointments to the position of Deputy Chief Justice. This comes almost a year since the position became vacant with the appointment of Mandisa Maya as Chief Justice in September last year. Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo, who interviewed for the Chief Justice post in 2022 and leads the busiest division in the country, has emerged as a front-runner for the position. However, none of the President's nominations stem from the current Apex Court bench. Zolega Kodasha takes a look.
Section 174, subsection 3 of the Constitution grants the President the authority to appoint the Chief Justice and their deputy, as well as the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal and their deputy, after consultation with the Judicial Service Commission and leaders of parties represented in the National Assembly. Currently, Justice Mbuyiseli Malanga is acting in the position, but is due for retirement in July this year, where he would have served a non-renewable term of 12 years on the Constitutional Court bench. In a letter to Chief Justice Mandisa Maya by President Cyril Ramaphosa, seen by Eyewitness News, Ramaphosa has nominated Gauteng Judge President Dustin Mlambo, President of the Supreme Court of Appeal Mahube Mulamela, Free State Judge President John Musi, and Northern Cape Judge President Pule Tlaletsi. Eyewitness News understands that the letter was also sent to DA leader John Steenhuisen and EFF leader Julius Malema, among others. These officials, along with top jurists as well as other members of the JSC, will now have to convene to consider the nominations made by the President. While Ramaphosa must consider their views, he's not legally bound by the outcomes of their deliberations. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
And huge crowds are expected at St. Peter's Basilica today for a glimpse of Pope Francis's body. This is the second day of public tributes ahead of the Catholic leader's weekend burial following his passing on Monday. Close to 20,000 people filtered past the Argentine's open red linen wooden coffin in the first few hours of the lying in state yesterday. Senior religious leaders, meanwhile, in South Africa have sent a stern message to political officials to prioritize the welfare of citizens. The delegates scattered at the Cathedral of Christ the King in Johannesburg yesterday, where they reflected on the legacy of the late pontiff. Among the senior political officials who were present included Government of National Unity, such as ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula and the IFP's Mkhuleko Hlengwa. Secretary General of the South African Catholic Bishops' Conference, Father Hugh O'Connor, says politicians ought to take a leaf from the teachings of the late pontiff.
You are there to see that those who are left out of political, social and economic systems are included, that there is work towards the eradication of poverty, to the provision of decent employment for all people, in other words, service delivery.
Gold is trading at $3,329.57 an ounce. The rand is at 18.66 to the dollar, 24.77 to the pound, 21.16 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $66.20 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the M1 North. In fact, bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is between Boysons Road and Empire Road due to a major accident between these 2 points. While travelling on the M2 West, delays between Heidelberg Road and the Crown Interchange. That's due to peak time delays there.
A cloudy and rainy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 16 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the DA says it has been approached by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana for an out-of-court settlement regarding its VAT hike interdict.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Nine minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. It's wonderful to have you with us here on 702. I hope you're well this morning. If you're watching us on the 702 YouTube page, hello, I'm waving at you. Remember, you can always catch the show live on YouTube. Just go to the 702 YouTube page if you want to watch it live and listen at the same time. We kick off the show with the 702 open line, 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. That is being done away with. That's the announcement that the Minister of Finance made late last night. Treasury's lawyers contacted the Democratic Alliance and they told the Democratic Alliance that we want to negotiate an out-of-court settlement. I spoke to some of the DA's federal executive members this morning who were confirming that the settlement, they're still waiting for Treasury to actually send out that settlement, which is supposed to be finalized at some point between Treasury's lawyers and the DA's lawyers. Now, this is politics, obviously, and the question now is going to be, whose victory is it anyway? And I tweeted earlier today that I think this is the DA victory. And why is it a DA victory? Look at how things have unfolded. In fact, the fact that Treasury is going to sign an out-of-court settlement on this VAT issue with the Democratic Alliance tells you exactly what's going on. I think this is a victory for the DA. It's the legal argument in court this week that swung it. Treasury realized that it's losing this case. There's going to be a ruling on the 28th of this month. That's next week. If Treasury loses this case, that's going to be a big headache for them. Hence, the out-of-court settlement. Because the DA, if you watched what happened in court, was this last week? If you watched what happened in court, no, this week, you'll see how the DA put up a really strong case. Treasury's lawyers were unable to answer some really tough questions this week. I see, in fact, kudos to the Sowetan newspaper because they're running with it on their front page. Godongwana's VAT U-turn, I think Kotatso Madisha has really been pushing this story and has done an incredible work in speaking to sources inside to find out what's going on. And in fact, in the article that he wrote for the Sowetan newspaper, he says that the insiders that he has spoken to said that Minister Godongwana took this decision after observing the proceedings of the VAT case this week. He's been following the court case, and in his view, he will lose. He can't afford having a court reverse his decision. Right? That is really the reason why we're sitting here with a decision that the minister has made. Bazima Shilowa actually tweeted earlier and asked, why did the minister wait till the disastrous showing by his legal team in court this week? And I responded and said, it's a disastrous showing in court that made him think again, because the minister was resolved. This was the hill that the Minister of Finance was willing to die on, That's why he stood firm, even in the responding affidavit. Please, if you enjoy reading these affidavits because they give a lot of context, go check out the Minister of Finance's affidavit in court, in the Western Cape High Court, and see what view he had of the VAT hike. This was the hill he was willing to die on. And that's why he stood firm, even in his responding affidavit, until the disastrous showing this week in court. So they decided, in fact, that smaller parties, what he said in court this week was that through his lawyers, because I think one of the judges asked, but Action SA and all the other parties who have been having conversations with the ANC and proposals, and the minister through his lawyer says, well, it's not my problem that Action SA misrepresented my view on this. And he was effectively pouring cold water on the discussion that the ANC was having with other smaller parties. I mean, through his lawyers. He even called Action SA's understanding that we will reverse VAT a misunderstanding, and he said he can't take responsibility for that. Now, the finance minister said in court papers that VAT will come in on the 1st of May. That's what he says in the responding affidavit. That's what his lawyers also said this week. He said there is no alternative to the VAT increase. There was no political will, if you remember, from Treasury whatsoever. In fact, let me play you back the clips I played you. I think I played you back these clips last week because it was the first time we actually heard from the finance minister since really the discussion started with the VAT. And you could pick up even from what he said that he had no political will. He was not interested even in the proposals that were being made by the smaller parties. Listen to what the finance minister said, I think about a week and a half ago, when he was asked about whether VAT can be reversed.
I mean, let me just say, some of them may be workable, but to give effect to them is going to take a while. In other words, some of them may be effective, may be good implementing in the 1st of April next year. I'm just giving you an example. So we making the specific proposal for each of those proposals. I can't say now which one is workable. I doubt, let me put it that way, but I can't say it for now.
Yeah, so that's what the minister says, that even what they're trying to propose, it could be workable, but maybe that's something that we could implement in February next year. And yet Action SA and all the other parties have been saying, no, but we need this to be scrapped by the 1st of May. Minister says, at best, it can happen only much later. In fact, that's why even yesterday I played you a clip of Songezo Zibi. Now, this is a clip of Songezo Zibi when he was speaking on Newsroom Africa, when he was asked, do you think that it's going to be possible? Because they've now heard from the Minister of Finance, and he responded and said, we now don't think it's possible to stop it on the 1st of May. Now, Treasury itself said it's too late to change this VAT hike until the minister then realized that he's losing the case this week. He's not withdrawing VAT because he's convinced by the proposals from the other parties. He's conceding before he can be forced by the court. Now, the question is, how is this going to be done? Because the withdrawal is determined by the introduction of an amendment bill, as the minister actually states so in his statement last night. You don't just withdraw VAT by decree. Parliament would have to vote on an amendment bill. There would have to be a process of sorts, and that's what I want to try and get someone in Parliament to explain that to us. What process then unfolds now before the 1st of May to give effect to this announcement by the minister? Because the minister has just simply made a pronouncement now. But he has to replace the bill with a new one, because the law is very clear on that. You can't just simply make an expression that, oh, we plan to then reverse VAT. There are processes that would have to unfold, and one wonders, when are those processes going to unfold? But without a full withdrawal and a reset of the budget process, whatever follows will remain illegal and unconstitutional, and that's the point that the EFF has made. Now, the EFF is also calling for the immediate resignation of the finance minister. I wonder what you think of that. They're saying that this entire budget fiasco should be a reflection on the finance minister and his DG. Even the DA's Helen Zille said so not so long ago, that this entire thing, in any democracy, a finance minister wouldn't survive this. But we live in South Africa, which is alive with possibilities. I want to hear your thoughts on 011-883-0702. What do you make of how things have unfolded now? And who do you think takes the victory here? Is it Action SA, BOSA, and all the other parties? Is it the Democratic Alliance and the EFF? Because if it wasn't for this court case, could the finance minister have still decided to change his mind? Why did he have to wait until he realized in court that he is losing this time around? Give us a call. Send us a WhatsApp voice note as well on 072-702-1702. We want to change things slightly on the show today. So normally we do our hanging out feature at 10 o'clock. But because there's this breaking news story and there's a lot we're trying to understand about what processes are going to unfold, we want to bring in other parties. We invited Action SA to come in. I know Herman Bongani Binga spoke to Athol Trollip. We invited Herman Mashaba to join us. A lot of them are telling us they have a briefing at 10 o'clock, so they can't speak right now. So hopefully after 10 o'clock, we can bring them on the show. So what I'm trying to experiment with now is, don't be surprised at 10 o'clock if I say to you, we're going to move our hanging out feature to 11 o'clock so that we can accommodate this briefing by the ANC just after 10 o'clock with all the other smaller parties, because they're having a briefing of their own. And I want to bring in someone in Parliament who can explain to you what the legislative process then unfolds before the 1st of May. What does this mean? Because the finance minister just releases the statement which acknowledges that there are processes that must unfold, but only says that he will be presenting in a few weeks. What does that mean? If you're going to be presenting something else in a few weeks, does that mean by the time we come on the 1st of May, then what happens then? So that's what I'm trying to understand. So we're going to do that. So we may flip it around at 10 o'clock, take that ANC briefing, and then bring in some analysis, bring in some journalists and someone in Parliament who can help with the legislative processes. But on our hanging out feature this morning, I'm really excited to be hosting music legend, the iconic Babsy Mlangeni. This is someone who's described himself as South Africa's first blind superstar. I mean, his name resonates deeply with South Africa's rich musical landscape, and I can't wait for us to get to know him better today on the show. I've just been alerted by producers that we seem to be having problems with our WhatsApps. So please, can you give us a call if you have a comment? 011-883-0702. As soon as our WhatsApps are sorted out, I will indicate so to you. But for now, just call us 011-883-0702. 20 minutes now after 9 o'clock.
Clement Manyathela. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Let's go straight to your calls. Kustas, you are in Midrand. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Clement. I hope my line is clear when
Much. It is. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, Clement. The victors, the victors are the people of South Africa. But let's give the credit where it is due. Democratic Alliance played its role. EFF played its role. Action SA played its role. Who am I missing? BOSA plays its role. Rise Mzansi plays their role. Now, why is it that we have to give all these parties collectively the victory? It's simply because we need to ask a very serious questions on the ANC as to why would this minister go rogue and goes against the interest of other ministers in the ANC when they say we don't like this and he pushes ahead. And I believe that he is working unilaterally outside of the ANC's wishes because the ANC didn't want this claim. Let's be honest. So investigative journalists and we must ask a question. There is a dark hole within at National Treasury. What is going on there? Is this institution being managed properly? Because to me, there is a failure of governance there. And they are not giving us the whole information as to what is this desperation of increasing rates so much that they want to do it at all costs. But having said that, Clement, the legal argument of Treasury in that parliament was bad.
It was so terrible. But that's my question to you then, Kustas.
Yes.
The finance minister was resolved, right? Last week or 2 weeks ago, he spoke to Newsroom Africa in the SABC and they asked him that question and he said, even if I want to reverse this thing, it's going to take a while. At best, we can change it for February next year. In his answering affidavit last week, he says in his court papers, VAT comes in on the 1st of May. I have no other alternatives. Through his lawyers this week, he says, it's not my problem that Action SA and other parties misrepresented my view here. I've never said that we are working on reversing. I've already considered other alternatives. I don't have any other alternative. So in that point then, when he comes and goes to the DA and says, let's work on an out-of-court settlement. Had there not been a court case, do you think the finance minister would have reversed this VAT?
No, you would not have, Clement.
So why then are we trying to dilute the DA victory? Because I want us to be fair, right? And I hear what you say about, I'll give you a chance now. I hear what you say about the other parties. And I tweeted that everybody takes credit. This works for all of us. I mean, Action SA and the other parties were putting political pressure, which is very much must be acknowledged. But realistically speaking, if there was no court case, would VAT have been reversed?
The VAT would not have been reversed, Clement. And I think that we must not only give credit to the DA only. The EFF was there. And the EFF arguments were sound in law. And they really got to the nitty-gritties of paragraph what I think on those Treasury papers. And therefore, when we lift up and we give the victors, we cannot give only the DA, you have to give the EFF legal argument. Yeah. But at the same time, this Minister Clement has to account to the ANC. Because what he did, ANC is known as the party that tends to keep its word in negotiations. So he was going against that. ANC said, we will make sure by the 1st of May it doesn't occur. And he was pushing ahead against the interest of the ANC and its cabinet ministers. So he needs to be held to account. And ANC needs to demonstrate that because now we need accountability. So all in all, Clement, EFF did well. Action SA did well. Now, watch this, Clement. Action SA's work and Bosa's work is now about to come through. DA's work has ended, by the way. All the proposals of the of the Action SA and Bosa are now going to come through. Watch this place there. They won't take anything from the DA, but they will take from the Simoyana parties. Thanks for taking my call.
But the finance minister says, in the statement, the finance minister says that we're going to have basically a deficit. In that statement he's sending out, he's not really speaking much about the proposals that are going to be considered. So I'm looking forward to seeing how does he then fill the gap. Any of the proposals that have been brought forth by all the other parties, which he basically rejected through his court case from his affidavit, if you read his affidavit, is he suddenly now going to say, oh, wait, Action SA or Ubanibani made a great suggestion. Let me go with that. I wonder. All right, let's hear what the other listeners think, Kustas in Midrand. Thank you for your call. Lungile in Randburg, what do you think?
Morning, how are you, Clement?
Sharp. Go ahead.
Yes, man. I've got a concern here. I can see that credit is being given to the DA as if they are the only ones who played a role into this thing. But why is credit not given also to the EFF? Because they played a very huge role into this matter. So I feel like it's not fair for them not to be given enough credit as the DA. Yes. Yeah,
you're right. But so Kustas just referred to that now, Lungile. Did you hear Kustas said EFF also went to court?
Yes, I did hear part of it, but now I made a call and then I switched off my radio, so I couldn't hear. Okay,
no problem. But I agree with you, Lungile, and I think that's a fair point to make because Tembe Kangukai Tobi, the advocate, made some salient points in court, which I think is part of why the Minister of Finance has now decided to change his mind on this. So the EFF also going to court and making those arguments, I think that really helped in getting the minister to think otherwise. So credit to them as well.
Okay, no, thank you so much.
Lungile in Randburg, thank you so much. Mulife, you are also in Randburg. Good morning.
Good morning, Clem. How are you?
Hi, Kimnatu. Go ahead.
I don't want to say much. I was listening to your conversation with Musi Maimani yesterday.
Yes.
And you must call him and apologize because you were laughing at him saying that there was no way that this would be reversed, correct?
Yes. Through the pressure of the smaller parties.
Somebody's got egg on their face this morning. Call him Musi and apologize. Thank you. Let me give others a chance.
Thank you, Mulife. So I spoke to Musi Maimani yesterday, and he said, I have a meeting with the ANC today, and that meeting will then advise me on how we're going to move forward. And I said to Musi, and I still stand by what I said yesterday, I do think that the ANC deceived the smaller parties. If it wasn't for this court case, that VAT was going to come on the 1st of May. It was very clearly stated so through the finance minister's court cases. So I still think that the finance minister is not making this reversal because, he's now convinced by the arguments that the smaller parties have made. And I actually even invited him and Mashaba to come on air. Musi Maimani with Songezo Musi, we've asked them to come on air, but they've got a briefing now at 10 o'clock. So as soon as that briefing is done, I want them to come on. But I want them to come on so that they can also explain the process that unfolds now before the 1st of May, especially because Musi is the chair of a committee that deals with the second part of the budget. But make no mistake, guys, I still think that the ANC deceived the smaller parties. The DA was smart enough to go to court very early on. The EFF was smart enough to also look at the loopholes and join the DA's court application. And also, to be fair on the DA, I mean, they're the ones that went to court. The EFF is a supplementary to the case by the DA. So if you want to talk about credit, the DA takes the credit. But the EFF also played a critical role there through this court case. It's the court case that saved the day. That's why the finance minister, even responding in his affidavit, you must go check it out, he pours cold water on what the smaller parties have been saying about their expectations. He does. But he realized this week that either his lawyers did a poor job, or he realized that we just simply do not have a case. And that is why, who did he call first last night when they realized they're losing? He didn't call the smaller parties. He didn't say to the ANC, okay, tell the smaller parties I now agree with them. He goes to the DA and says, let's have an out-of-court settlement. Let's go to Charlie now, who's calling us from Midrand. Charlie, what are your thoughts?
Clem, hi.
Hey, go ahead.
Clem, my vote is working. I'm a Zimbabwean. I voted for DA. I'll tell you why and how. It's another story. So I've been telling South Africans that DA is a game changer in all this. Please just vote DA. And it's happening. I'm happy with whatever is happening. Is being done by DA.
Yes, go ahead, Charlie. So what are you saying?
I'm saying is, you said because of ANC, a lot of things were being hidden. A lot of things were happening, and South Africa were being hidden on them. Look at immigration. Look at this VAT. We are using things that we are not even paying tax for. Yet South Africans are paying tax. So where is that money supposed to be sourced? So let DA govern the country once and for all, and then the country will be.
So, he's just gone, Charlie. I wanted to ask Charlie there. Okay, because I know the question that's going to come is, he said he's a Zimbabwean, but he voted for the DA. So the question will be, yeah, but Clement, how did he vote? So I think maybe he's a citizen, and I wanted to ask Charlie, but his line got cut off there. So, guys, I want us to really be fair here especially because politically, people are always going to claim different victories, right? Whether you like a political party or not, and that's what I've come to learn, is when you give the Action SA credit, which I did the first time when they said, in fact, I had Athol Trollip on the show. I said, Action SA has saved the day. And I had Athol Trollip, and we were talking about how they've managed to clinch this deal with the ANC to say the finance minister will look at their options. Then the DA people complain, yeah, you are crazy. It's the DA. Action SA is the one that sold out. And then the DA goes to court, but you don't want to give the DA credit because the finance minister walks away because of the DA court case. That's wild. Whether you love Action SA or the DA or the ANC, you must give credit where it's due, whether you hate that political party or not. And in this case, whether you like it or not, the finance minister didn't reverse his decision because he suddenly woke up last night and thought, Action SA actually has some really wonderful ideas. No. He reversed his mind because there's a case he was about to lose. Who took him to court? The Democratic Alliance, supported there by the EFF, which also made their arguments in court. And I will give them that credit. But equally so, as Kusta says, give credit to the other parties that have been putting on political pressure. What are your thoughts? Give us a call on 011-883-0702. 932. Siso, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The DA has claimed victory in stopping the VAT increase, but the party's leaders say the fight is not yet over. Its Federal Council chairperson, Helen Zille, has told the press briefing this morning that they are now expecting a full settlement proposal from the finance minister. Enoch Godongwana made an about turn, announcing overnight that the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike will be withdrawn. The Health Department has considered that most public hospitals vehicles are not compliant with safety standards, lacking basic fire prevention and occupational health measures. The admission comes after 2 fires broke out at Tembisa Hospital in just 5 days, and some patient records are believed to have been destroyed, as well as high-value medical equipment estimated to cost millions. And as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to look for support in the war with Russia, Washington has accused him of harming peace negotiations after he said he will not recognize Russia's control of Crimea. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth social media that a deal to end the war is very close, but Zelensky's refusal to accept America's terms will do nothing but prolong the conflict. Ukraine has long said it will not give up Crimea, a southern peninsula illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traffic remains heavily backed up in the Soshanguve area. This is between Hebron Road and Roslyn Road due to a major accident seen between these 2 points. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. If you're traveling in Erasmus Park, there's roadworks taking place along the N1 North right after the Flying Saucer interchange, and they are causing delays. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. Traveling on the M1 North is bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is between Boysons Road and Empire Road. There's also queuing traffic on the M2 West between Harderberg Road and the Crown interchange, and traffic lights are still out of order in Edenville at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck Road. Do expect delays there and approach with care. We'll have more updates for you at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Simply Asia could be sending you and 3 friends to Thailand. Chopsticks, our tiger, is already on the prowl. And he can't wait to tag along. He's got his pool noodle ready for Songkran. Hurry, you don't want to lose your seat on that plane? Join the fun at Simply Asia by spending just 200 Rand in-store on our app or via delivery. Chopsticks might just swipe your ticket. So don't wait. T's and C's apply, ending May 31st.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today.
So you wouldn't want to pay more than you need to for electricity, right? So why overpay for car insurance? Switch to Outsurance and you could save big every month. Zandile, a 36-year-old woman, is a real Outsurance client who saves a mind-blowing 918 Rand a month on her 2024 Cherry Tiggo 1.5 litre. Isn't it time you got the real deal? Don't pay more. Switch and save today. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Make soccer season legendary with Hollywood Bets. Aziz Shagay, Let's Play takes your disky passion to the next dimension. Light up the games with your best bet slip and stand a chance to win your share of 2 million Rand in prizes, including a brand new Toyota Fortuner. Bet a minimum of 10 Rand on any soccer fixture to qualify. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bets supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Mitsumania is here, and it's bigger than ever. For a limited time only, experience unbeatable deals on the Mitsubishi Outlander, Eclipse Cross, and Triton. For a limited time, you can get up to 90,000 Rand on deal assistance, adventure, performance, style, whatever you're after. We've got it at a price that'll blow you away. But hurry, these deals won't last. Visit your nearest Mitsubishi dealership now, before time runs out. Mitsubishi Motors. Drive your ambition.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
23 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls on 011-883 0702. So we're just keeping it at calls for now while we sort out our WhatsApp line. James, Zaza, Bushle, I see you. I'm going to come to you in a moment. I want to quickly take Sinawo Thambo, who is a member of parliament with the Economic Freedom Fighters. Sinawo, thanks for making time for us. Good morning.
Morning, Clement, once again, and morning to the listeners.
So you have seen what the finance minister has announced last night. Let me first get the reaction from the EFF, and also what do you think this means going forward? Because, I mean, does the finance minister reverse VAT just by decree, or are there other processes that should unfold in parliament?
Look, I think the first thing we need to do is to clear the muddying of waters, because a lot of what is happening now is claiming of victories by a lot of political parties.
Yeah.
So the first thing we must clarify is that the minister, as you're saying, cannot decree a reversal of the VAT hike unilaterally. And if we read his media advisory carefully, he says that he's going to introduce a proposed amendment bill to propose that the VAT hike remains at 15%. Now, that reveals to you that any statement by anyone that says that the VAT hikes have been reversed immediately is incorrect. The second point that I think we should also clear the muddied waters of people who are claiming victories is that the media advisory by the minister doesn't speak to utilizing any alternative revenue generation mechanisms proposed by any political party or holder. He says he's going to recover the shortfall by adjusting expenses. So this means that there is no political party that can say that during this 30-day period, they've provided an alternative revenue generation mechanism that has resulted in the VAT being scrapped. What is going to happen is that there's going to be consequences to health, there's going to be consequences to education, and possibly social grants, because the minister is going to try to offset the revenue shortfall of 75 billion by cutting expenditure.
Yeah.
So let's clear the muddied waters.
But now I need you to repeat that. I need you to pause there a bit, because there is a confusion that's been created out there, because that's how I understood it as well. When I read the finance minister's statement, he doesn't say that, oh, I'm now convinced by whatever proposals that BOSA or Action SA has submitted. There are going to be consequences here, because all he's saying is, okay, I'm not going to increase VAT. And even in that statement, he acknowledges that there are going to be consequences. So it's not because he's now suddenly convinced by Action SA's proposals or other parties' proposals. It's because he saw that he's probably going to lose this case in court, and better withdraw this right now rather than wait for the ruling on the 28th, because that was going to create a much bigger headache.
Absolutely, and that is the point I wanted to get to, is that we should recognize the importance of the court process here, because the duplicity but also the deception of the Minister of Finance is revealed in the fact that he said in his court papers that he doesn't foresee this being reversed, that on May the 1st. So this reversal comes from what happened in court 2 days ago, and that is reflective on the fact that the consequences of the scrapping of the VAT hike are going to fall on the poorest of the poor, which might as well remain the fact that can be equated to the VAT hike in itself. So those are the 2 points. But I think, Clement, the other point we need to make is that the minister states in his media advisory that he's going to withdraw the Division of Revenue Bill and Appropriations Bill and rework it and resubmit it to Parliament in the next coming weeks. The Division of Revenue Bill and the Appropriations Bill are products of the fiscal framework. So when he reintroduces them in a couple of weeks, what informs the Division of Revenue Bill? What informs the Appropriations Bill?
It's the
and what is the fiscal policy that guides them? Because the fiscal framework, which is currently disputed in court, by the way, has been adopted by the National Assembly. So he's gonna rework this Division of Revenue Bill and Appropriations Bill, guided by what? Because we have to go back to the initial process. That is why we as the EFF are saying that he has consequently withdrawn the budget in its entirety. And we don't see how he, in good conscience, wants to remain a Minister of Finance, because he has missed the timelines established by the PFMA Act, which say that before the beginning of the financial year, by the 31st of March this year, for example, he should have presented a budget. He has essentially not done so. And the confusion needs to be clarified for our people, because, for example, now, Parliament is going to go on a recess as of tomorrow. His proposed amendment bill, when is it going to be deliberated upon by Parliament? So we're not trying to blow anyone's bubble, but let's be honest and reflect on the process objectively before we try to claim victories, all of us as political parties.
Yeah. All right. Sinawo Thambo, EFF Member of Parliament, thanks for making time for us. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you not? Yeah, I just reread that statement again that the Minister of Finance released. And also watch, guys, what's going to happen at 10 o'clock when the ANC takes to the podium. It's so weird that the ANC is going to want to somehow also claim victory. They're going to try and say, we are a party that listens. Please, you didn't listen to anyone. You didn't listen to anyone. The smaller parties have been trying to convince the ANC. ANC busy giving them meetings week after week. The finance minister sticking to his guns until this week when he realizes, I am losing. And he doesn't come and say, okay, I found the additional revenue through the proposals from the smaller parties. He says, I need an out-of-court settlement because I realize that I'm going to lose. And if I lose this case on the 28th next week, literally 2-3 days before the 1st of May, that creates a bigger headache for the finance minister. Let's go to Semi, who's calling us from Centurion. Semi, what are your thoughts? Hi.
Good morning, Clement. Clement, for the fact that the finance minister's lawyers decided to call the DS lawyers after the caved in, it clearly tells us that this is a DA victory. Let's stop being politically correct here. It's like a hip hop battle, when I Clement. Every hip hop artist has got a hype man. So when a hip hop artist loses a battle, the other one wins. You don't give a trophy to a hype man. No. So in this case, the EFF was a hype man. So to say that is a EFF victory is to give EFF a participation trophy. This is the DA battle, and we need to recognize it and start realizing as to which party cares about us as South Africans. That's all I have to say.
But did you hear the EFF? I hear your point, Semi. I get where you're coming from, and which is why, for me, I started by saying, I think this is a DA victory. I think the EFF also played a critical role, as a supplementary party, as a second applicant in this matter. Yes, they were largely arguing different cases, if you will, but more or less the same at the end of the day. But I think the EFF's legal team also made some salient points in that court, which I think helped the finance minister realize that I don't have a case here.
Had it not been for the DA deciding to take the first step, EFF was just going to sit there.
Or maybe they were going to go to court as well. We don't know.
Most possibly, the EFF was going to end up singing praises to ANC and being the cheerleader. That's why that I can guarantee you that.
All right, Semi in Centurion, thank you. Zaza in Johannesburg, what do you think?
Hi, Clement. I'm absolutely certain that this is the DA's victory. The reason why I'm saying that, remember from the beginning, when they were supposed to vote for the VAT increase, they were reluctant, even though some people were calling it a political chess game, that they want something in return or what. But they've always been against it. Then they are the ones who initiated the court case. Because I truly believe that if they didn't take this matter to the court, the VAT was not going to be reversed. And then now I'm also thinking, yes, I'm happy that I did vote for VOSA, because finally they were against this. They were trying to fight it as well. But in all honesty, DA really helped us. And now I was laughing to myself. I'm thinking, my network provider, my banks, they already sent SMSs that they'll be increasing the fees from the 1st of May. So now I'm thinking, okay, they have to come back and reduce the fees
but
again.
Here's the problem, Zaza. The banks also can't just release statements. They can't just also send out SMSs now and say, oh, forget what we said. VAT is not increasing anymore, because there are processes. So legislatively, you don't just wake up as a finance minister and say, VAT is not going to increase. There are processes that are supposed to unfold, which is what the EFF's Sinawo Thambo is saying is the minister must still come and present something different, because the fiscal framework, then that means you are withdrawing the entire budget. Then what does that mean then going into the 1st of May? Because if you don't withdraw the fiscal framework, that fiscal framework that was adopted had the VAT hike. And the finance minister in his statement doesn't even explain, which creates even further confusion for banks, for lenders, because people just don't know. What do they do now? Do they send us SMSs and say no VAT on the 1st of May? Or do they keep it as it is and then it's just going to be reversed after a week? And the finance minister is not there to explain himself. Zaza, thank you so much for your call in Johannesburg. Let's take, who's this? Papa J, you're calling us from, where's Papa J now? Wait. There. Papa J, you are in Lenasia. Good morning.
Hi, Clement. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, my thoughts on this whole VAT issue. Firstly, I want to say that I used to be a DA supporter. And over the last couple of years, I've moved over to Action SA because I believe in what Herman Mashaba has been doing, even when he was at the DA, what he did at the City of Johannesburg and the turnaround he's made. So I've been a loyal supporter of Action SA under Herman Mashaba. And I believe this VAT, amongst many other parties, also a lot weighs in with Action SA and their voice. I know that everyone's trying to take victory here, and the DA being the main ones. But I find the DA absolutely deceitful, because they were the ones that initially agreed to the budget, to the 2% VAT increase. And now they come out to the public to sort of say, well, we were against it from day one. But yet they agreed to it in behind closed doors. And I find, listen, we just the public, and what we see and hear in public is very different to what happens behind closed doors. Absolutely different. But I respect Herman Mashaba, because he has maintained that whilst he made an agreement with the ANC in principle, that he had put forward a plan, a financial plan or whatever it is, to recover this billions of rands that the VAT increase would have accumulated to, as they have done in the city of Tshwane. They've helped SARS recover, I think it was about 8 or 9 billion rand. And they put forward a similar sort of plan to say, well, listen, instead of VAT increases, here's a plan how we can recover this money within this time frame. So we do not need to go forward with the VAT increase. So for me, Action SA and Herman Mashaba are the heroes here, along with the other parties.
Yeah, Papa J, I think they did play a critical role when they managed to get the ANC to speak to the finance minister to rethink his budget. I mean, that initially, when that happened, and I even said on air, thank goodness that Action SA was able to negotiate that with the ANC. So they were putting their own political pressure on the side. And they must be given credit for that, together with all the other parties. And the DA, this doesn't change the fact that the DA, which is what I must clarify also, is the DA taking victory now and having gone to court successfully, clearly, because now the minister is withdrawing. That doesn't mean the DA wasn't playing dirty politics in the beginning, because they tried to claim, oh, we're doing this for the poorest of the poor. Did you? And if really you didn't want VAT, why were you still having negotiations behind closed doors and saying, if you give us this, then we're going to be able to support that 0.5 percentage point? Because that's what the finance minister said. That's what some of the ANC leaders said. So we must still question the DA and its honesty. When you were pushing against the 0.5 percentage hike, were you really doing it because you care about South Africans? Or were you doing it because it was not serving you politically? But had your own political conditions been placed on the table, you would have taken that. But that's politics. That's politics. Even yesterday I said, parties are always going to take decisions that work for themselves. James, you are calling from Johannesburg. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Thank you, Clement. Clement, I don't think that we should give credit on the basis of first come, first serve, because I know that even the EFF from the onset, they did mention that they are going to take this matter to court. So the mere fact that DA filed papers first, it doesn't make them victors at the expense of other parties. But I just want to add, in agreement with the previous caller, that for me, I think that I don't think that ANC withdrew this necessarily because of the court case. Remember, after the withdrawal, after the vote, Herman Mashaba was very uncompromising in the fact that should they not go and look for other means other than VAT, we're not going to vote for them. So I think for me, the ANC looked back and said, but in future, it's troublesome. And then the DS gave us a problem. They look at Tshwane and other places. They said, in future, we will need these guys to help us. Because obviously, as we can see, DA and the ANC are always fighting, and they're the more disagreeing parties, and they're working together. So I think that the ANC considered that in future they will need the SAFM and other parties like BOSA. And so they need to know that if we pass it, we will be betraying them.
Consequences.
And in future, who's going
and
to
Herman Mashaba said that. And Herman Mashaba said that if they decide to go ahead, well, good luck to them. But then, James, my question then to you is, why did the ANC realize that now, yesterday? Because I actually put it to the ANC probably about 2 weeks ago already, that do you guys realize that if you go ahead with VAT, you're going to struggle to pass the other two bills that give effect to the bigger budget in Parliament? So the ANC was very well aware of what the consequences are 2 weeks ago already. So you think they only realized that yesterday when it's always been clear as mud from 2-3 weeks ago already?
I don't think there was a consensus, Clement, in the ANC about the way forward. So my submission, I'm basing them on the basis of Mbalula's press conference. Because if you listen to his conference, it was very much protective of the Action SA and other parties to say that people are accusing them of being selling out. They're not selling out. So from that basis, I think that the ANC was leaning towards them, against the DA. So the DA, for me, they were very much opportunistic, Clement. Remember, they were prepared even to trade VAT for the scrapping of the bill and everything. Their views, their conduct in this matter is opportunistic and dishonest.
Yeah. All right, James, thank you so much for your thoughts. Guys, at some point we need to have a conversation about Treasury. We need to have a conversation about the finance minister, how this entire matter has been handled. This is the person who dismissed the smaller parties, not only through his public statements to the media a week and a half ago, but also through his own affidavit to Parliament. This is the same finance minister who assured everybody else that, VAT does come in on the 1st of May. And then the matter goes to court and he realizes the court is really going to put me in the corner here. And that's the arrogance sometimes that comes from the officials, is they can just give the middle finger to any other party that proposes anything differently until they're going to be forced to do it. But remember, even with, who's that? Is it Bashir? The one who, Bashir, Omar al-Bashir. Yeah, the Omar al-Bashir. Remember, there was a time when the ANC was told, you cannot host this man because once you host him, the ICC expects that you do what? You arrest him. But the ANC, or the government, it was the ANC government, it was arrogant enough to say, this man is going to come here and we're just going to do it anyway. And that's how government often responds. They think that they can just be arrogant and do whatever they want to do and deal with consequences later. With Omar al-Bashir, it had to be the court that says you were wrong. And that is why when the Russian president was meant to come here, they said, hey, we can't because already the courts have found us wanting. And even in this case, it's the courts that have now pushed the finance minister to actually listen. What's going to be weird for me is if the ANC then says, we are a listening party. Listening party? A listening party wouldn't have proposed a 2 percentage point VAT hike. A listening party wouldn't have proposed even a 0.5 percentage point hike because South Africans and other parties were saying South Africans simply cannot afford it. Katleho, you are in Woodmead. Good morning.
How are you, Clement?
Good, man. Go ahead.
All is well. Just a quick one, Clement. I think at some point last year, you had an interview with Solima Paila, and he mentioned that we need to have a debate with the Minister of Finance. And I just wanted to bring that to the fore again, given what's happened over the last couple of days, that as a country, we really... I have this discussion with my wife pretty much every evening when she tells me about traffic lights are not working, yada yada is not working, yada yada. We need to have a discussion about how Treasury approaches us. He's telling us about a 75 billion rand shortfall over the next 3 years. No one has asked, look, is this aimed at education? So you have constitutional mandates that you have to oblige with that money. So has Treasury actually gone, for instance, yesterday we got data out of, I think it was Stats SA, to tell us that inflation is at its lowest since like 5 years, 2.7%. Has Enoch Godongwana given Lesita Khanya a call to say, look, you are another entity that we haven't actually discussed here that can contribute to the National Reserve Fund. And before someone talks about inflation again, they say, no, but if we are saying Lesita Khanya must help us with the 75 billion over a given period of time, what isn't that just going to increase inflation? The South African monetary base since 2020, and please go look at this, it has expanded insanely. That's why you see all the banks right now, they're increasing their minimum wage. They've got excess reserves that are going through the roof. at the moment. Why doesn't Enoch Godongwana and Lesetja Kganyago have a conversation to say, let us increase the minimum reserve requirement of all these banks and see if I can't help you with the 60 billion rand that you need in the interim?
Yeah, Katlaho, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that on my list. I think that's a separate conversation we can have about that duality, the relationship between the finance minister and the Prudential Authority, the South African Reserve Bank. But I think you're raising something there about, especially in cases where we've got issues with the economy that is not growing, jobs that are not being created, what opportunities exist here without, of course, interfering with the independence of the Reserve Bank. So I promise, Katlaho, that's a conversation I'll put down. Maybe I'll get someone from Treasury and even someone from the South African Reserve Bank to come talk to us about that. Thanks for your call, Katlaho. It's 2 minutes now before 10.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
This isn't just a walk, it's a journey through memory, through meaning. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns on Sunday, the 27th of July. Walk from the hollowed grounds of Freedom Park to the southern lawns of the Union Buildings and some of our capital city's most iconic landmarks. Choose from the 8-kilometer, 6.7-kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4-kilometer for something lighter. Every entries is 360 Rand for adults and 200 Rand for kids under 12. There's no parking at the start or end, so please book your park and ride from Joburg or Pretoria when you enter. Sign up on primemediaplus.com before the 26th of July. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Walk with meaning. Walk with us.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3429. Just once, I wish instead of a compulsory stand-up, someone would send me a meeting request for a compulsory lie-down. No wonder everyone hates millennials.
Hating the corporate 9 to 5? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's easy and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Get app-exclusive Unreal deals for 3 days only at Pick n Pay ASAP and Mr. D. Get 1 kilogram Rainbow Simply Chicken Viennas for only 95 Rand 99 each, and 200 gram Nescafe Gold Instant Coffee or a 220 gram refill for only 136 Rand 99 each. Get hundreds of Unreal deals delivered by Pick n Pay ASAP and Mr. D. Valid 25 to 27 April. T's and C's apply.
This is EWN.
Fight is not yet over. The party's federal chairperson, Helen Zille, has told a press briefing this morning that they are now expecting a full settlement proposal from the finance minister. Enoch Godongwana made an about turn, announcing overnight that the 0.5 percentage point VAT hike will be withdrawn. Zille says the second issue is having Parliament address its adoption of the fiscal framework, which the party argued was not adopted lawfully. She also wants the out-of-court settlement agreement made an order of the court. Meanwhile, she's confirmed that the DA will meet with the ANC today for this matter and other round of talks relating to the government of national unity.
We can also confirm that later today, Thursday, the 24th of April, we will be meeting an ANC delegation to discuss this matter and other matters relating to the government of national unity.
The Health Department has conceded that most public hospitals are not compliant with safety standards and they lack the basic fire prevention and occupational health measures. The admission comes after 2 fires broke out at Tembisa Hospital in 5 days. Some patient records and high-value medical equipment estimated to cost millions have have been destroyed. A fire yesterday gutted the outpatient unit, slightly disrupting services at the facility. Mongezi Gogo reports.
Tembisa Hospital was dealt yet another blow yesterday morning, forcing health officials from both provincial and national levels to intervene. Deputy Health Minister Joe Phaahla, who conducted a site inspection, said many hospitals nationwide are ill-equipped to deal with emergencies like this.
Many of our facilities, not just in Gauteng, are not fully compliant in terms of the safety, fire safety requirements. Requirements in terms of occupational health and safety were not really very much enforced.
While the cause of the fire is still under investigation, officials have yet to rule out malice or the possibility of corruption returning to a facility once flagged by whistleblower Babita Deokaran. Mongezi Gogo, Eyewitness News, Tembisa.
The corruption case against former President Jacob Zuma and French arms deal company Thales returned to the Pietermaritzburg High Court this morning. Zuma is continuing his fight to have lead prosecutor in the matter, Advocate Billy Downer, removed from the case. The former president has long accused Downer of being biased and says he may not have a free trial. While this attempt has previously failed, Zuma is forging ahead with the court set to issue a ruling today. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Former President Jacob Zuma will today hear from Judge Nkosinathi Cili whether or not Downer will continue to be the lead prosecutor in the arms deal corruption case. Zuma and French arms deal company Thales are charged with fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering linked to the 1990s arms deal. However, since the start of the trial in 2021, the case has been met with delays as Zuma pushes to remove Downer. Thales has also filed an application of acquittance citing the death of 2 witnesses in the matter. That application is also expected to be heard in court today. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Pietermaritzburg.
And as Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to look for support in the war with Russia, Washington has accused him of harming peace negotiations after he said he will not recognize Russia's control of Crimea. U.S. President Donald Trump wrote on his Truth social media that a deal to end the war is very close, but Zelensky's refusal to accept America's terms will do nothing but prolong the conflict. Ukraine has long said it will not give up Crimea, a southern peninsula illegally annexed by Russia in 2014. Meanwhile, Zelensky is in South Africa and he's meeting with President Cyril Ramaphosa at the Union buildings for discussions to strengthening ties between the two countries. The meeting comes amid global efforts to secure a peace deal with Russia in the long-standing war. Gold is trading at $3,331.34 an ounce. The rand is at 18.59 to the dollar, 24.70 to the pound, 21.15 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $66.60 a barrel.
And in the traffic, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 North between Boysons Road and Empire Road. This is due to a major accident seen near the Empire turn-off while travelling on the M2 West. A bit of a stop-and-go there between Heidelberg Road and Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic in the city of Tshwane along the N1 North. In fact, an accident has been reported near Linwood Road. It is causing massive queues coming out of the Flying Saucer interchange.
A cloudy and rainy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 16 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. The DA has claimed victory in stopping the VAT increase, but the party's leaders say the fight is not yet over.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
7 minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Thank you for your thoughts, your contribution on the 702 open line this morning. We're changing things a little bit on the show today because of the breaking news, the finance minister's announcement that he's doing away with VAT, without really getting into a lot of details about how this is going to be done. In fact, I think what's now concerning me is that I've been trying to get a hold of the chair of the Finance Committee in Parliament to come and tell us what processes would ordinarily unfold, because you don't just decide, oh, VAT is not coming, and then by decree, then that's done. There are other processes that must follow. What does this mean for the fiscal framework that was adopted? Do you go back to Parliament to introduce a bill? And can you do that before the 1st of May? What really happens? What is the process? And it looks like, from what I'm getting, that even the Finance Committee chair doesn't seem to know what processes are going to follow next, which is quite concerning for me, that an announcement like that is made, and yet it's not quite clear what are the processes that are going to unfollow to give effect to this pronouncement by the Finance Minister. So what we're doing, ordinarily would be doing the hanging out feature this hour. We're moving that to 11 o'clock so that we keep on chasing this breaking news. I've got Helen Ziller now, who's the DA Federal Council Chairperson, joining me on the line. And then what I'll do as well throughout this hour, when the ANC and the other smaller parties start their briefing, I'll take some of that live. Helen, let me thank you for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners.
So let me maybe start with the lawyers that got in touch with you from Treasury as the Democratic Alliance, because there is an impression that's been created here that, the finance minister has now somehow listened to some of the proposals from the other parties, and that's why he's now decided to walk back. But his lawyers came to you guys to say, let's work on an out-of-court settlement. Have they indicated why?
That's correct. Well, you only ever offer an out-of-court settlement when you don't think you're going to win in court. And just last week, on Thursday last week, in fact, exactly a week ago today, the minister sent us his answering affidavit to our court case, in which he absolutely insisted that there was no alternative to the VAT increase, that the VAT increase would go ahead on the 1st of May, and that he was preparing and he's following through with the legislation to make it a reality. That was long after all the smaller parties had been discussing things with him and making alternative suggestions. So what happened between last week, Thursday, and today? One major thing happened, and that was the DA's court challenge, which came to court on Tuesday. That was the 22nd of April. And on Wednesday, we got this offer from the lawyers of the minister. So they gave us a proposal. They said we would like to do an out-of-court settlement. And what we've said to them is, well, we'll consider it, give us a written offer. And now we're waiting for that written offer. And that only really happens if you would rather reach a settlement than be ordered by a court of law to remove the VAT increase.
Okay, so you guys still don't have the full settlement yet from Treasury, yeah?
No, we don't have the full offer, but what they were saying is, please don't go ahead, we want to settle.
Okay. So, what do you understand what process then unfolds now, Helen? I just saw now Parliament has communicated something about, in fact, it's a statement from Cedric Frolick, who is the House Chairperson for Committees Oversight and Public Participation, and he's released this on behalf of the Speaker of Parliament. And they're saying that as a consequence of this announcement, the Minister will withdraw the current Division of Revenue Bill and Appropriation Bill in order to propose expenditure amendments. The statement goes further to say it is expected that the Minister will then introduce new bills in the forthcoming weeks. These developments will definitely have obvious consequences for Parliament and the program of the National Assembly. This effect of this will be the review of the parliamentary program as it currently stands when more details are obtained. Is it possible, Helen, that Parliament can have these processes unfold in a space of a week? And what do you understand to be the processes that should unfold to give effect to this pronouncement by the minister?
Okay, so the minister has announced that he intends to issue a new, what is called a rates bill. It's the bill that has a very, very long name, and it's commonly called the rates bill. in which the VAT increase will be made an act of Parliament. He's going to review that and make the VAT rate 15%, not 15.5%. That was the nub of his announcement. Now, in order to do that, he's got to say that he's not going to increase the VAT amount on the 1st of May. Currently, we believe that it's likely, but not definite, that in terms of Section 7.4 of the VAT Act, he can simply revoke the announcement of the VAT increase, which is partly why it is unconstitutional. But we have to hear precisely from our lawyers what this means. What it does say, however, is that he concedes that he can't win this in court. He's going to have to agree with us, and he's going to have to go through a proper process again. It also has profound implications for the Portfolio Committee of Parliament, because there they took a decision that was clearly unlawful and irrational. And in fact, the conclusion that was in the committee's report was not based on any decision that was taken in the committee. And that was the report that went to Parliament that also then took a decision that can't be considered lawful. So Parliament is either going to have to review and rescind its own decision, or it's going to have to be set aside by a court. This is really an unprecedented situation, and we're going to have to see how things unfold, but we're waiting for an offer of settlement from the lawyers of the minister right now, and possibly also from the lawyers for the Speaker of Parliament.
Okay. What does this mean for the GNU, Helen? Because yes, the finance minister approaches you guys to say, because he can see clearly that he's going to lose this case, and if the ruling comes on the 28th, it's going to be a big disaster for him to figure out what to do within that short space of time before the 1st of May. So the ANC is about to hold a media briefing. You guys are not there as members of the GNU. They are going to now speak about their own political process, where they were trying to come up with other alternatives for the finance minister to raise that additional revenue. Where does this leave you and the ANC? Because now you're operating in silos.
Well, it's a very good question, Clement, and we don't have a normal coalition. I mean, first of all, the ANC didn't follow any of the processes set out in the Statement of Intent when we couldn't agree on the VAT increase. Those processes should have been followed. They were ignored. And the ANC went outside the Government of National Unity to other parties to try and get a majority that would make the DA support unnecessary. They got that majority in dishonest ways. They gave the impression to the smaller parties that they would reconsider the VAT increase, but then they never did. And that was emphasized in the minister's replying affidavit that we just got on Thursday last week, saying the VAT increase must definitely go ahead. So we've got this very low trust environment. The ANC clearly misled the smaller parties into believing that if they supported the fiscal framework in the Portfolio Committee and in Parliament, the minister would reconsider the VAT increase. He clearly had no intention to do so, as his replying affidavit said last week. And here we are, the very major party in the Government of National Unity, having been ignored by the ANC in terms of processes to reach an agreement and having had to go to court to challenge this VAT increase. And now we're excluded from the ANC's press conference, in which they will go with parties that are not in the Government of National Unity. It's crazy. And in fact, in no country in the world would a government, a coalition government, survive this level of mistrust and this level of deception that we've experienced from the ANC. So we're operating in a very low trust environment. But this is an unusual coalition. The DA is there because we're winning the battles that we're taking on, and we intend to continue the battles that we're taking on. First, we try in the political lane, and if the ANC absolutely refuses to follow the processes that we were setting in the Statement of Intent for resolution of these issues, we'll have to also fight in the legal lane, unfortunately.
I mean, they don't want you to go ahead with that legal lane because they know that they're going to lose. And what's interesting to me now is, how does the ANC then put you on ice and not talk to you when it's their minister who's trying to negotiate with you as the DA for an out-of-court settlement? Because, I mean, the ANC could very well go and claim the victory with the smaller parties, but as the DA, if you don't agree to that out-of-court settlement and you negotiate with Treasury and the finance minister, then the finance minister runs the risk of, losing this, and that's not going to look good on him, even though now he's announced he'll follow other processes.
Well, there are two things here that we have to look at. One is the political side of this, and the other is the legal side of this. On the legal side of this, it is pretty clear that the minister's lawyers are approaching us because they don't want us to be slapped with an adverse court order that might have many rude things to say about them. So they are very wary of that. They want to avoid that, and they're approaching us for the legal settlement. On the other side, the ANC politically wants to claim that it was the discussions with the smaller parties that made it change its mind on VAT. Now, that is patently a misrepresentation because they'd had discussions with the smaller parties for weeks before last Thursday. And last Thursday, the minister said he was sticking by the VAT increase, there was no alternative, and it was going ahead. What happened between last week, Thursday, and today was our court case. And the case that we put before the judges, and the judges saying that they're going to come with an outcome on the 29th of May. And so there's the political desire to make it look as if the smaller parties have reached agreement with the ANC because they don't want to give us any credit for this victory. And then the other side, there is the legal reality of his lawyers saying you better settle on this, otherwise you're not in a good space.
Will you guys, my last question, will you guys, because also these are two separate processes, as you indicate. There's a legal process, there's a political process as well. But are you willing to negotiate that legal process without putting up political conditions? For instance, if the ANC continues to speak to these other parties and speak about what goes on going forward without involving you as the Democratic Alliance, even though legally the finance minister realizes he's losing and wants to talk to you guys. So how do you then find each other with the African National Congress? When are you meeting with them? Weren't you supposed to meet Fikile Mbalula this morning at 11?
Yes, at 12 o'clock last night he cancelled that meeting, which is a typical way the ANC works, I'm afraid. You know, I'm glad they actually formally cancelled it. Otherwise, like I have done before, I would have flown to Johannesburg for nothing. So they did cancel the meeting, but it is quite bizarre that they cancel a meeting with their main coalition partner, whereas they're meeting people from outside the coalition in a joint press conference this morning. I mean, this is crazy stuff, and it shows what a low trust environment that we're working in, and how the ANC doesn't recognize any rules and doesn't stick by any agreement that is made. And that is what's happening now, but we're used to that. We've got used to it in the last year. And the big challenge really is that we work in a high trust environment in the DA because we have rules, we have procedures, and we stick to them and we trust each other. We found a completely different way of working with the ANC. They have a very low trust environment amongst themselves because there are so many factions battling for control. But the result is that you can't ever rely on what they tell you and what they say to you, whether it's having a meeting, whether it's committing to a process, whether it's even signing a statement of intent. You can rely on nothing that they say.
Okay.
And that's the fact. And it wouldn't be the basis for a coalition agreement anywhere in the world, but crazy things happen in South Africa.
Helen Zille, the Federal Council Chairperson, thank you so much for making time for us. But I told you the ANC is going to be holding a media briefing. We're still waiting. It looks like that is now just somehow delaying. But hopefully some time throughout this hour, that briefing will begin, and then we'll take it live. Let's take you to Lindsay Dentlinger now, who is our EWN reporter. Lindsay focuses a lot on Parliament. She understands these parliamentary processes, and I thought we should bring her so we can try and figure out where to from here. Lindsay Dentlinger, good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Well, I don't know that Parliament knows where to.
Nobody knows. I mean, even the chair of the Finance Committee is like, I don't even know how we're going to do this, what processes are going to unfold. I don't know if you've had a look, Lindsay, at the statement that's now been released by Cedric Frolick, the House chairperson, announcing that the program of Parliament may have to change to, of course, introduce these new bills that must now give effect to this pronouncement by the finance minister. Just help it make sense to us. Where are we now and where are we going?
Well, fortuitous or not, Clement, Parliament's National Assembly, the programming committee meets usually every Thursday, if not every Thursday, every second Thursday. So this overnight announcement happened to coincide with this morning's meeting. And so you can imagine when the ANC's programming whip, who is Cameron Dugmore, came to present the program, literally going through date by date what Parliament intends to do in the coming right up to 2 months. That's usually how far in advance they plan. He had nothing to say this morning because that entire program that would have been discussed by the chief whips of the different political parties yesterday morning is now literally thrown out the window. Cedric Froelich, the House chairperson, he came to deliver a message on behalf of the Speaker, who usually chairs this committee, but she wasn't present this morning. And she's really adopting a wait-and-see approach, saying, I'll wait for more information from the Finance Minister, and then we can decide how to proceed. And you can imagine, Clement, this did not go down well with opposition parties, in particular the MK party, the EFF. They find this a totally untenable. The EFF going as far as to say that essentially the country is without a budget, and there's no way that Parliament can dilly-dally any longer in determining what they do next, Clement.
Okay. So is there going to be an urgent meeting with the chief whips of other parties? Like, what's going to now define this process? Because it looks like there's uncertainty about what process would have to unfold. I mean, even the changing of the parliamentary program. I mean, you need the other parties to, sort of agree to some of that. What are the other political parties in Parliament saying?
So I think the main, as I said, firstly, a lot of confusion. We keep saying these things are unprecedented, but I mean, essentially, we are back to the minister essentially tabling a third budget, if you will. Or he's withdrawn, or he intends to withdraw all the budget bills. So what we can say for certain is that the next big vote that we were expecting on the 6th of May, which is on the Division of Revenue Bill, that is the bill that gives money to the different provinces and to the municipalities. What we can say for certainty, and Cedric Froelich, the House chairperson, confirming that obviously that date and that vote won't go ahead on the 6th of May. So essentially what Parliament awaits now is for the minister to table new bills, Clement. But what is really uncertain is that this very contentious fiscal framework that was adopted, and which really sets the sequence for how Parliament deals with the budget bills, whether he needs to bring us a new fiscal framework. And we know that this was the contentious issue that leads to that discussion you've just had with Helen Ziller there about who gave and who did not give their votes to the fiscal framework, which really underpins all the legislative documents that make up the budget as a whole. And that is what's unclear. The MK party putting it to Parliament, saying the Parliament's administration needs to come back to them to explain whether the minister needs to table a new fiscal framework. It's not just good enough to say he intends to withdraw these bills and then at some point table new ones.
And speaking of that fiscal framework, as you said, my understanding is that it's that fiscal framework that was adopted first in that finance committee that set the stage then for the Division of Revenue Bill and the Appropriation Bill. So even if the minister then somehow withdraws these two bills, does that mean then he must go and present, there must be a new fiscal framework that is adopted in the finance committee? And how can that be adopted without the minister also presenting an alternative? Because the fiscal framework that's been adopted is the one with the VAT hike.
That's correct, even though Action SA will spin that somewhat. Athol Trollip saying today, well, it was adopted with the rider that the VAT increase would be removed. So, I mean, I think every political party is trying to claim their own victory in terms of the minister now having withdrawn that VAT hike. But yes, that is the clarity we seek now, Clement, because you are correct. It's a sequence that gets followed, and that these bills follow on from a fiscal framework. And so if he's going to bring new bills, they are not necessarily, we would think, going to speak to that fiscal framework, which includes a VAT hike. However, some political parties want to spin that they agree to something that would later be retracted. One would think that the minister would really have to start this entire budget process from the very beginning, which starts with the fiscal framework.
So effectively what that would mean is that this country as it stands then wouldn't have a budget.
This appears, once we know for sure, and that, the withdrawals have to be, not gazetted is not the correct word, it's called ATC'd in Parliament, but there has to be, it has to be signed off. The Speaker has to acknowledge that she's received these withdrawals. They then get published in the parliamentary notices. Then yes, Clement, we do essentially not have a budget. That would appear to be the case. The way the parliamentary program was laid out for the next 2 months was that the National Assembly would possibly pass the last of the bills, which is the appropriation bill, round about the end of June. And then, of course, it would still have gone to the NCOP. But there was a whole long program set out for next month. There are 42 government departments. Each and every budget for each of those departments gets debated in a separate mini plenary session. There were up to 6 of those scheduled per day for Parliament to debate, and you will remember that the presidency vote is usually quite a big discussion. It results in a 2-day debate and reply. This entire program now has to be shifted out and reconsidered, but none of that can happen, of course, until the minister makes clearer what his intentions are. And until he brings new bills to Parliament, Clement.
Just lastly, Lindsay, you normally know about the program of Parliament. This statement from Cedric Frolick says the effect of this announcement by the Finance Minister will be the review of the parliamentary program as it currently stands. Was there a recess that was supposed to come? Because I know parliamentarians came back from recess last week on the 22nd of April. What does that mean for the parliamentary program then going forward? And when they talk about it being reviewed, does it mean we'll have parliamentarians working overtime or cancelling some of what may have been recess? What does it mean?
Well, so yes, you are correct. They've just come back from a little bit of an Easter break, but I don't know if it's owing to the 2 public holidays next week, but Parliament was, or the National Assembly at least, was due to go on what they call a leave period. So not constituency work, not anything else, actual leave for parliamentarians. And that is scheduled for next week. So Parliament was not due to do any business next week. This morning, the EFF called on Cedric Frolick, the House chairperson, to cancel that leave period. They don't want to wait any longer. They say the chief whips must meet immediately. They want the Speaker to call the leaders of political parties together to chart the way forward. And of course, Cedric Frolick was just trying to put the brakes on all of this, saying, just hang on a minute, let's see what the finance minister is going to do next. But the opposition parties, the MK and the EFF, specifically voicing their distaste for that particular decision today, saying they want the chief whips to meet as soon as this evening, Clement. They want the Speaker to call political party leaders and, if need be, to cancel next week's leave period to work on a way as to what they're going to do next and how much longer it's going to be until this budgetary process gets restarted.
Lindsay Dentlinger, EWN reporter, thank you so much for making time for us. She's our parliamentary reporter, at least making some sense about what's likely to unfold in Parliament in as far as parliamentary processes are concerned to give effect to this pronouncement by the Finance Minister. We are still waiting for that briefing of the ANC and the smaller parties. I will bring in fact, I'll take some of your calls as well, right? Maybe after the news. Let me start with your calls, reacting to what we've covered so far. You've heard from the EFF, you've heard from the Democratic Alliance, Action SA, and then the other parties told us they can only speak after that briefing. What do you make even of the statement that has been released by Parliament this morning on what processes will unfold next? Your calls on 011-883-0702. It's 10:31. Sfiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Former President Jacob Zuma's bid to remove advocate Billy Downer as lead prosecutor in the arms deal corruption trial has once again been dismissed. Zuma and French arms company Thales are charged with fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering in connection to an arms deal in the 1990s. The former head of state approached the Pietermaritzburg High Court to have Downer removed, citing bias. But Judge Nkosinathi Cili this morning says there are no reasonable prospects to remove Downer from the matter. The DA has claimed victory in getting the National Treasury to drop its intended 0.5 percentage point VAT increase. The party has also slammed Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, with its Federal Council chairperson Helen Zille saying he should be embarrassed for buckling under pressure after fighting for the increase even in court. And the body of Pope Francis is lying in state for a second day at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican as public tributes continue ahead of the Catholic leader's weekend burial following his passing on Monday. Close to 20,000 people filtered past the Argentine's open red leaden wooden coffin in the first few hours of lying in state yesterday. Meanwhile, senior religious leaders in South Africa have sent a stern message to political officials to prioritize the welfare of citizens during this time. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Travelling on the M1 North, we still have got delays between Boysons Road and Empire Road due to an accident. In fact, two accidents at these moments. I'm seeing one near the Crown interchange and the other one near the Empire Road exit, and this is causing a stop and go. Travelling in the Mayfair area, do expect delays along the M2 West between the Crown interchange and Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic along the N1 North. This is the N1 South, rather, between Rivonia Road and Winnie Mandela Drive. And then travelling in the city of Tshwane, delays on the N1 North, obviously because of that accident that happened near Linwood Road, and it's still causing those delays coming out of the Flying Saucer interchange. And in Soshanguve, we've got delays on the R18 North. This is between Roslyn Road and the Hebron Road exit. That's due to an earlier accident, but the delays are still there. Please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care. More updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
What is happening at Tembisa Hospital? We've heard from the CEO of the hospital that there weren't any cameras that were stationed to the place that the fire actually took place. That raises all sorts of questions. The center is not holding. Perpetual crisis mode has now become the norm. We've got to be kind to ourselves, and that means we've just got to be honest with ourselves and be able to stand up and say, hi, my name is Aubrey Masango. I'm an alcoholic. And it might not be alcoholism. It might be another type of addiction. Our addiction is that we're addicted to crisis.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
The Emirates Lions are back at Emirates Airline Park for the rest of the remaining 4 Vodacom United Rugby Championship fixtures. Let's do it for the city and get behind the Lions as they prepare to face Connacht this Saturday, the 26th of April at Emirates Airline Park. It's more than just rugby, it's a fun-filled day out with family and friends. Kickoff at 13:45. Tickets available at ticketpro.co.za or at the Emirates Airline Park ticket office. See you there.
South Africa, get ready to feel the pulse of the Hollywood Bits Durban July. Prepare for an exciting day of high fashion, thrilling horse racing and world-class entertainment. Watch this space for an incredible artist lineup announcement as we celebrate this year's magnificent theme, Marvels of Mzansi. Be a part of the buzz. Tickets are on sale now at TicketPro, Spar Pays on kiosks and selected Sassel stores. See you on Saturday the 5th of July at the Hollywood Bits Greyville Racecourse for Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
This isn't just a walk, it's a journey through memory, through meaning. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns on Sunday, the 27th of July. Walk from the hallowed grounds of Freedom Park to the southern lawns of the Union Buildings and some of our capital city's most iconic landmarks. Choose from 8 kilometers, 6.7 kilometers in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for something lighter. Entries is 360 Rand for adults and 200 Rand for kids under 12. There's no parking at the start or end, so book your park and ride from Joburg or Pretoria when you enter. Sign up on primemediaplus.com before the 26th of July. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Walk with meaning. Walk with us.
The new Corolla Cross. Fill it with friendship. Fill it with...
How's it, Brie?
And...
Sharp, bruh.
Fill it with family. Fill it with...
We're gonna be late!
And...
Coming now.
Fill it with Harry Smith halfway stops. Fill it with...
Lekker, nee.
Fill it with life. With a new look exterior, including a geometric grille, panoramic view monitor, park distance control, a power boot kick sensor, and a spacious interior, the new Corolla Cross is filled with life. You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
23 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let's continue with reaction to the breaking news story this morning around the VAT increase. The finance minister announcing late last night that he's doing away with that. What does that mean? He reached out to the Democratic Alliance, realizing that he's clearly going to lose his case in court. In court papers, he said, VAT will come on the 1st of May. And he said, I just don't have any other alternatives. He even seemingly poured cold water on discussions the ANC was having with the smaller parties by saying that, well, it's not his problem or responsibility, to quote his lawyer, it's not his responsibility that the approach of Treasury was misinterpreted by other parties like Action SA, that somehow he was going to come up with alternatives and reverse VAT. But this week, when he realized that he's about to lose that case and it's going to be more devastating for a court to pronounce on this, and he loses on the 28th of April, he's now decided to get in touch with the DA to work on an out-of-court settlement. So he's now reversing it following what happened really in court this week, because before this week in court, he was really being asked some serious questions. I'm told that the ANC briefing is just about to start, so we'll see how that goes. So as soon as it starts, I will take you live to that ANC briefing so we can hear from the party and other smaller parties. I want to bring in Lukhona Mnguni now, who's a political analyst, joining us as we all try to make sense of what's going on. Lukhona, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement, and good morning to your listeners. Always a pleasure.
What do you think of what's happening? So this country alive with possibilities.
Alive with possibilities and making the impossible possible, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Clement, I think this is a very serious issue, and I don't think it's being treated with the importance that it requires. I think there's something quite interesting in terms of where the shift has happened in terms of dealing with this issue. Budget is an outcome of government processes in particular, and then it gets tabled before Parliament. But now it seems as if it has completely moved to the arena of politics and political parties. I find it interesting that the president doesn't seem invested in the budget issue at all. You know that the person who owns the budget more than anything in other jurisdictions is the president, because that's what gives expression to your political statement, whether it's the State of the Union or the State of the Nation address and so on. But I think, Clement, something much more fundamental is happening here, is to undermine the authority of Parliament. And by that I mean, nobody is telling us what is the place of the resolution taken in the National Assembly and in the National Council of Provinces on the fiscal framework.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a mere wish that the Standing Committee on Finance must deliberate, decide whether to accept or amend. There's no place where the budget can be rejected. It can be amended or accepted. Now, the problem here, Clement, is that you've got a fiscal framework that's adopted, and the law is very clear. Your division of revenue and your appropriations must follow the fiscal framework. So now you've got a fiscal framework. Now, the agreement, if you remember, on the recommendations made by Action SA to the Standing Committee was that they must go find revenue alternatives.
Yeah.
What is currently happening is that, in fact, there are no revenue alternatives being placed to replace VAT. So therefore, what is actually being advocated for is that, well, then the budget shortfall in the medium term, what you need to do then is to cut expenditure. Now, when you are cutting expenditure, you are affecting the fiscal framework that has already been adopted. So you then need to walk back the entire thing. I mean, it means your budget policy statements no longer make sense. And the fiscal framework is binding. It's not just a mere process for Parliament to debate it and so on. So I'm trying to say, Clement, for me, there's more confusion rather than clarity, by the way. And I'm seeing all these victory laps, and I think they're a bit hollow. And lastly, of course, as you would have seen in the Treasury statement, that the minister will introduce a revised version of the appropriation bill and division of revenue bill within the next few weeks. The question is, what happens in 8 days' time?
That's
or
the
in
thing.
actual fact, in a week's time?
And he doesn't say that. He doesn't even give clarity on that. Look, I just want you to hold it there for now, because I want you to clarify more on that. But quickly, the ANC has just started that briefing. I want to get your thoughts on that as well. Let's take a listen to this briefing by the African National Congress and the smaller parties.
To affirm the outcome of critical deliberations aimed at restoring public confidence in the fiscal direction of our republic. Over recent weeks, South Africans have observed robust and at times difficult engagements on the fiscal framework, discussions that touched the core of our national priorities, the burden on our households, and Parliament's constitutional mandate to act in the best interest of the people. These engagements have now culminated in a decision that reaffirms both the authority of Parliament and the imperative of people-centered governance. For the past 3 weeks, parties have been engaged in consultations amongst themselves and the National Treasury. The discussions required maturity above all and were all intensely focused on achieving consensus, which was necessary to resolve the budget impasse. We affirm the constitutional mandate of Treasury and that they have been responsive to the inputs and suggestions of the political parties in these engagements. This demonstrated that no one party is the alpha and omega in providing solutions for South Africa. A collective approach by all parties that represented here have put South Africa first and made sure that the budget is approved. It is now formally confirmed that the proposed increase in value-added tax, VAT, initially tabled in the March budget will not proceed. This outcome is a product of sustained, lawful, and transparent engagement reflecting the constitutional supremacy of Parliament as the final authority on public finances. Importantly, this outcome did not arise from expedience, nor as a concession to pressure or populism, but from a shared commitment across party lines that the working class and the poor and all our people cannot be further burdened in this economic climate. It is a decision firmly rooted in the national interest and in the moral clarity demanded by our Constitution. In line with the constitutional powers entrusted to it, the Standing Committee on Finance adopted a report which, 1, rejected the VAT increase proposal, 2, directed the Minister of Finance to table revised proposals within 30 days. This position has earned the support of a parliamentary majority, providing the democratic and legislative legitimacy for a revised fiscal path, one that keeps the people's interests at heart. Furthermore, parties are committed to a government-led expenditure review in order to maximize efficiencies in government spending. The integrity of this process must be underscored. It was Parliament, not the courts, not unelected bodies that led the resolution. This is a reaffirmation of constitutionalism and a victory for a democratic process. We are alive to the urgency that this process now demands from us to support the passing of the money bills and ensure that they are passed. We call on the Finance and Appropriations Committees in Parliament to move with urgency and ensure that the nation has a budget. All parliamentarians must ensure that we pass the bills and act in accordance with the constitutional mandate. As diverse political parties, we are united in our commitment to fiscal responsibility that is neither detached from reality nor blind to inequality. We are bound by a common principle that budgetary decisions must not deepen the suffering of the poor nor compromise long-term economic development. It is worth noting that the approved budget framework includes important interventions aimed at advancing South Africa's development. These include increased allocations for transport and logistics, infrastructure, support for dam projects to improve long-term water supply, additional funding to strengthen public health care and safety, and resources to support early childhood development. The framework also enables the extension of social relief of distress grant and opens opportunities within the public service, particularly for young people. Together, these measures reflect a shared commitment to a budget that is responsive to the people, promotes inclusive growth, and upholds the principle of fiscal responsibility. We also affirm that fiscal consolidation must not mean austerity for the vulnerable. Alternatives must preserve the social wage and enable inclusive economic growth. Treasury, in collaboration with Parliament, must continue to ensure sound, equitable, and developmental financing. This is not about claiming credit or asserting ideological dominance. It is about taking our role in ensuring that there is responsibility in governing and defending the foundational values of the democratic project we all serve. We do wish to extend our appreciation to the Minister of Finance and the team at National Treasury for respecting the letter and spirit of parliamentary consultation and for engaging with parties on a bilateral basis. Appreciation to members of Parliament across party lines who conducted themselves with discipline and dedication to the constitutional mandate during this time of the budget impasse. To parties, and we wish to underscore this, to parties who are outside of the government of national unity, who acted with resolve to resolve the impasse in the interest of national unity and the stability of governance. And above all, to the people of South Africa, whose voices, petitions, and unwavering demand for fairness guided our actions and shaped the outcome. We also recognize all participating parties for honoring the ethos of multi-party democracy, respecting differences, embracing collaboration, and placing the country above power. This is a victory for the people and for democratic institutions. This is not a victory for one single party, nor is it about who claims the loudest voice. This is a people's victory. It is a quiet but profound triumph of democratic institutions, as well as that of Parliament acting in an activist nature, which is expected of a democratic Parliament. The withdrawal of the VAT increase, the reaffirmation of parliamentary oversight, including executive role in implementing, and the recalibration of fiscal priorities together represent a democratic maturity that must be defended and deepened. We recommit ourselves to the path of constructive dialogue, to ethical governance, and to ensuring that public resources uplift our people, stimulate inclusive economic growth, and bring us closer to a truly just and prosperous society. As I conclude, the next steps will include the following. A revised finance bill is expected to be tabled in Parliament. The legislative process that follows will be monitored and shaped by the shared developmental priorities, including shared strides towards inclusive economic growth, as expressed in the statement. We will continue to communicate transparently with the public and stand ready across party lines to ensure that the interests of the people remain the center of our fiscal policy and public governance. We end there. At this point,
Follow
I'd like
702 on X.
At Radio 702.
the message on behalf of the ANC.
Thank you, Mlangeni, on behalf of all political parties reading that statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, viewers at home, and all South Africans, colleagues from different political parties. First and foremost, as the ANC, we recognize that we have entered a period of coalitions at the national government level, which we may characterize as uncharted waters. Before, we used to engage differently with the budget. In the government of national unity and coalition government, we have learned our lessons in relation to how we seek to engage with matters of the budget. We may have performed better in these uncharted waters, approaching the budget as a political tool in the governance of any other country. The budget is key as a political tool to determine stronger governance in different countries. If we had a wealth of experience, we may have approached this differently, meaning negotiations and engagement with political parties among ourselves, with Treasury and Parliament oversight prior the passing of the budget is a new terrain that we all need to learn about and gain as an experience when dealing with this particular matter. We started from 2%, we ended to 0.5%. And in engaging with the budget. We made a submission to the Minister of Finance, like all other parties, after the 2nd of April fiscal framework vote in Parliament. We also held extensive discussions through this month, from the 9th of April, intensive discussions in the past 2 weeks in the same hotel with different political parties, even those who have chosen to go to court, to engage with them on the question of the budget. And that have showcased on our part that we've got a bigger role to play than just political posturing for the country. Even those that went to court, we engaged them. But we did not ask them to get out of court. They did engage, they did raise their views about the budget. And we do appreciate political parties that have come together to pass the budget framework. And these political parties never fudged their views, never fudged their intentions when they agreed to pass the budget. It was very clear that we need to deal and review the VAT increase. And today, after extensive engagement, it has resulted in the Treasury also coming to the party to agree with all of us that VAT review will not be implemented as it was presented before.
All right, that's the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Fikile Mbalula. You'll hear more about what he's saying on Eyewitness News. I want to just wrap up that conversation with Lukhona Mnguni, who's a political analyst. Lukhona, you've heard what the ANC has had to say, but before you even get into that, I want you to just complete the point you were making earlier about the timelines and the uncertainty about what unfollows now between now in the next 8 days, essentially.
No, thanks, Clement. I mean, I think the next 8 days are extremely crucial in this process because if the minister is still yet to introduce to the Parliament a bill that effectively reverses the introduction of the VAT, it will be interesting as to when Parliament will have time to consider it Also, Clement, the section that is being impugned by the DA in court, Section 7, subsection 4 of the VAT Act, doesn't seem to have a provision that the minister can withdraw an introduction of a VAT increase, because what is quite clear there is that once the minister introduces a VAT increase and Parliament simply does not agree with the minister, therefore meaning they do not pass the bill introducing the VAT increase, then the VAT increase lapses after 12 months. Now, I don't see a universe where this becomes entirely legal, but as you say, I'm a political analyst and not a legal analyst, but I think, again, the point I'm raising here is what we are hearing is from political parties. That's well and good, but the business of Parliament must still go. So what is the resolution in the fiscal framework? What will be, so which means the minister must then, amend the divisions of revenue and appropriations bills. And those must be done within the fiscal framework, the expenditure ceilings. I mean, a practical example, Clement, Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, has announced publicly that he's advertising new posts. Those posts were on the premise that there will be additional revenue in the fiscal so that, health can employ new doctors, Now, what happens of those announcements? Because you are now taking away the VAT increase, therefore you are taking away the ability to fund some of those budget line items, in effect, because you are working more on the expenditure side rather than on the revenue side. And I think the public needs to focus on that and ask the politicians. They said they are going to take 30 days to work on alternatives to revenue generation mechanisms. And there clearly are no revenue generation mechanisms on the table as we speak.
But then what is then Fikile saying? Because the ANC seems to be suggesting that the finance minister is reversing because somehow he's been engaging with these guys, and I'm assuming maybe he's satisfied with some of the alternatives they've put on the table as a source of that additional revenue. But from the finance minister's statement, that's not what he's saying.
The Treasury statement does not go anywhere near that. And in actual fact, Clement, both in the statement read by the spokesperson Mlangeni and additional comments from Fikile Mbalula, they would be headlining with that alternative revenue generation. They should be telling us, is it coming from, I don't know, a wealth tax? Is it coming from a different tax mechanism or whatever? Because there are so many, there are so limited ways in which the state can raise revenue in any event. So the question really here is, what is this alternative that has been placed on the table? If there's no alternative placed on the table, it's quite clear that the alternative to VAT increase is austerity measures.
Is austerity.
Absolutely. Then this turns the budget into an austerity
but
budget.
Also the devastating consequences of that. I mean, are we looking at cuts in health? Are we looking at cuts in education? I mean, if you're going to need 13 or 28 billion rand, whatever that shortfall is, and now Mlangeni says this does not mean it's austerity, and yet they still don't tell us what's going to replace what would have been brought through by the VAT increase. It is austerity.
The VAT increase would have been about 13.5 billion rand. And of course, nobody is talking about the bracket creep anymore, funny enough, which is about another 18 billion rand. So the 13.5 billion rand has to be found somewhere. So will you affect the signaling system at PRASA? Will you deal with Home Affairs in terms of the, border management agency? Will you, as you are saying, health no longer have space to have 400 additional doctors, teacher posts in education, infrastructure development? There's going to be some cutting elsewhere, and we can't even say it's cutting the fat. It's really cutting the bone at this stage.
Absolutely. Lukon Mnguni, thank you so much for your insight. He's a political analyst. It's 11 o'clock.
Craving a taste of Thailand? At Simply Asia, we could be sending you and 3 friends on a dream trip.
Spend just 200 Rand and you might be soaking up the sun with 3 friends in Thailand. Taste the Thai at Simply Asia and win your ticket. Plus, every purchase supports Gift of the Givers to help South Africans in need.
Cleansing.
Caring.
Connecting. That's what Songkran is all about. T's and C's apply. Competition ends May 31st.
My family's struggling with snotty noses and phlegmy coughs.
Oh no! Have you tried ACC?
ACC 600 is a convenient one-a-day effervescent tablet from 14 years of age, or now also in a no-water-needed, fruity-flavored sherbet-like granules that dissolve in your mouth. Ideal for the on-the-go adult. Ask for ACC 600 effervescent or oral powder at your nearest pharmacy to get rid of the snotties and flemmings. And trust, if it doesn't say ACC, it's not ACC.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. We start in KwaZulu-Natal, where former President Jacob Zuma's bid to remove advocate Billy Downer as lead prosecutor in the arms deal corruption trial has once again been dismissed. Zuma and French arms company Thales are charged with fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering linked to an arms deal that happened in the 1990s. The former head of state approached the Pietermaritzburg High Court to have Downer removed, citing bias. But Judge Nkosinathi this morning says there are no reasonable prospects to remove Downer from the matter. The DA has claimed victory in getting the National Treasury to drop its intended 0.5 percentage point VAT increase. The party has also slammed Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, with its Federal Council chairperson Helen Zille saying he should be embarrassed for buckling under pressure after fighting for the increase even in court. Zille says the ANC also deliberately deceived smaller parties when it said they would consider other alternatives even when the VAT increase was already confirmed. Babalondenza reports.
The Democratic Alliance wasted no time in briefing the media this morning after receiving an out-of-court settlement from National Treasury last night. The party says the VAT change is purely based on their court application in the Western Cape High Court to have the increase interdicted and not discussions between smaller parties and the ANC. Helen Zille says she was taken by surprise when she was informed.
Why did that take me by surprise? Because less than 1 week before that, in his answering affidavit in our court case, the Minister of Finance made it absolutely clear that the VAT increase would go ahead on the 1st of May.
Zille also had some words for Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana.
That in itself is a massive embarrassment for the Finance Minister, and certainly in a normal democracy, a Finance Minister wouldn't survive that.
Zille says the fight is still far from over, as Parliament's finance committees will have to start the process over with a revised budget excluding any VAT increase. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Meanwhile, the ANC is currently holding its own briefing with several parties within and outside the GNU. The ANC's Mahlengu Mutsiri says the latest development is not a victory for any party.
Parties are committed to a government-led expenditure review in order to maximize efficiencies in government spending. The integrity of this process must be underscored. It was Parliament, not the courts, not unelected bodies that led the resolution. This is a reaffirmation of constitutionalism and a victory for a democratic process.
In the capital, a small group of MK party members is picketing outside the union buildings in Pretoria over the arrival of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky will at this hour be welcomed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. He is in South Africa on a working visit that's aimed at strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries. Tabiso Goba is there.
The small group of Umkhonto weSizwe party members have braved the rain in Pretoria to vent their dissatisfaction with Zelensky's visit to South Africa. The MK party picket is being monitored closely by a large contingent of police. MK party national spokesperson Sinawo Thambo says Zelensky is a puppet of Western imperialist countries.
But we're saying we reject the presence of this puppet called Zelensky in our country, who has been used as an extension of NATO neoliberal imperialist agendas, and we're saying we can't allow that in our country, not in our name.
Ukrainian media is reporting Zelensky's visit to South Africa may be cut short following a Russian missile attack in Kiev overnight that killed 9 people and injured 80. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News at the Union Buildings in Pretoria.
And the body of Pope Francis is lying in state for a second day at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican as the public pays tributes ahead of the Catholic leader's weekend burial following his passing earlier this week. Close to 20,000 people filtered past the Argentine's open red linen wooden coffin in the first few hours of lying in state yesterday. Meanwhile, senior religious leaders in South Africa have sent a stern message to political officials to prioritize the welfare of citizens. The delegates gathered at the Cathedral of Christ the King in Johannesburg yesterday, where they reflected on the legacy of the late pontiff. Secretary General of the South African Catholic Bishops' Conference, Father Hugh O'Connor, says politicians ought to take a leaf from the teachings of the Pope.
You are there to see that those who are left out of political, social and economic systems are included, that there is work towards the eradication of poverty, to the provision of decent employment for all people, in other words, service delivery.
Gold is trading at $3,331.34 an ounce. The rand is at 18.59 to the dollar, 24.70 to the pound, 21.15 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $66.60 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the M2 West. This is between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic in Midrand along the N1 North approaching Olifantsfontein Road due to an accident. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care.
A cloudy and rainy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 16 and 18 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: former President Jacob Zuma's bid to remove advocate Billy Downer as lead prosecutor in the arms deal corruption trial has once again been dismissed.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Eight minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Time now for our Hanging Out feature.
Hanging Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
So on our Hanging Out feature this morning, I'm really excited to be hosting someone that I sometimes engage with on the show because he calls in now and again on the show, and I'm glad to finally have him in studio with us this morning. And we're hanging out with music icon, the legendary Babsy Mlangeni, someone who has really, his name is synonymous with just greatness, and it resonates deeply with our country's rich musical landscape. He's a trailblazer. I mean, his soulful voice, his powerful songwriting, that has really kept us entertained for generations. It's kept us reflective as well. And I'm so glad that he's here to hang out with us as we get to know him much better this hour. Remember, you're welcome to also join the conversation. You can call us on 011-883-0702. If you want to send a WhatsApp voice note, you're welcome to do that on 072-702-1702. Babsy Mlangeni, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I want to remind you guys that if you want to watch this conversation live, you can go on the 702 YouTube page. Remember, you can watch and listen to this chat at the same time. So go to the 702 YouTube page if you want to watch proceedings live, and you can see how cool Babsy looks. I said to you, Babsy, when you walked in here, there's no way that you're over 80. I refuse to believe that. Because you look so swaggy, you look 42 at most. How do you do it?
Well, firstly, I decided to. I used to groove a lot. I mean, like anybody else.
Yeah.
We used to do what I did what young boys do, you know.
Yeah.
And later I decided, no, I'm getting off this train.
Yeah.
I then decided to quit drinking, and then cigarettes, and then everything else that could give me some problems along the way.
And
So-
look at you now. It's paying off.
Yeah, well, look after yourself, and then the world will also look after you.
Absolutely.
Because our papela lefatshe le lona tla o papela.
That one's a story. Yeah, that's fascinating, guys. You should see. I'll post a picture as well with him. He looks so cool.
No, I made sure.
Yeah, you did. Unsita za Christmas.
No, I heard you when I was in the car coming this way.
Yeah.
That you say you're on YouTube, you're waving
Yeah.
to the people, they must see you.
Yeah, and you're
So
like,
I had to make sure that when I appear,
yeah,
at least I must appear presentable. I must not be like an old blind old man who can't look after himself.
No, you look.
And I'm telling you, I mean, what I'm wearing now, I got into my wardrobe and I decided I'm going to take this one and that one.
Yeah.
And people used to ask, how did you know this and that?
Yeah.
They match.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I've got my own way of doing things.
Yeah, because you are matching. You are matching. Let's start just with your upbringing, Babsy. I mean, you were born in Soweto, but grew up in other parts, from Mpumalanga as well. How was your upbringing, especially at that time when you lost your sight? How old were you? And what do you remember anything about that moment?
Well, I was told that I was blind at 3.
Mm.
That I can't remember.
Mm.
That's why I'm saying I was told. Then later, I actually thought that everybody was like myself, because in that place where we stayed, there were no blind children.
Mm.
It was only me, so I couldn't understand. And you know how cruel children could be.
Yes.
They used to call me names, bully me, and they would put some object so that I must stumble and fall, and all that. In some instances, when the luck is on my side, I would catch one of them and then give them a very, very good hiding.
Mm.
And the parents would then come to my place and cause havoc.
Mm.
Then my sister would then hide me, and when my mother comes back from work, then she'll tell him what happened during the day.
Mm.
Then my mother would take me and say, "Let's go. We'll go to that child that I gave her hiding." Then when I get there, my mother said, "You had my place. My child had your child had a problem with my child."
Mm.
Now, I want you to look straight into this boy's eyes and tell me, what do you see?
Mm. Mm.
And she said, "Mara, akiboni next." Said, "That child of mine is blind.
Mm.
Now, your child is calling him names, and then they are putting objects on his way so that he must fall.
Mm.
Sometimes they would put water in their mouth and then spit on my face and run away."
Oh.
All these things.
Mm.
But then later, they did, after trying everything, going to specialists and then going to traditional healers and Maprofita and all that. When everything failed, they decided to take me to school. At the Ethelon School for the Blind.
Was that in Cape Town?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about then your love for music, because it seems like you've always been musically inclined and you played a homemade guitar from a young age as well. What influenced you? Like, what was it that really made you so interested in music?
I guess it was something in me was something in me because I started at a very, very young age. As you say, I used to take this 5-gallon, and then I put inside something a blanket, and then I take some wires and start streaming along.
Yeah.
And when I go to the Athlone School for the Blind, I found that there were a lot of very talented guys there. So there were some few instruments like piano accordions and guitars and banjos and whatever, and clarinets and whatever. So there was a friend of mine, Kokolo Ilibona, who happened to be my partner in a lot of things, who happened to be my producer and all that. So we schooled together, and then because he was a bit older than me, and I found him there, and started teaching me some few chords and all that. And after a while, I could do things myself. And so at the end of the year, would then arrange end of the year school concerts, and all that. So I remember 1961 when I finished, when we had my last concert, end of the year school concert. So there was a song that I performed, which was called "O True for Mama" by Little Richard. So I used to imitate him exactly. So when I sang that song, everybody went crazy. I actually brought the roof down. So the girls were shouting, "Oh, Babsy!" and all that. So then I told myself that, man, I can do something out of this.
Yeah.
When eventually I got outside, in the outside world, there was a place called Zenzeleni, which later was then, they took Zenzeleni away from Roodepoort West to Garankuwa. So when they go to Garankuwa, it was then, the name was changed to Itireleng. So so they wanted me to go. So every blind person, both girls and boys, when they finish school, they will then take them to Zenzeleni to go and do some basketry and carpentry and all that, and some mats and jerseys and socks and all that. So my hands were too soft for a kid.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't take that.
You couldn't.
So when they summoned me to go and work there, I said no.
It's not gonna work.
They were very cross with me.
Yeah, I'm glad though you said that, because I wonder if that would have interrupted with that musical journey. But then again, sometimes when people are really called to something, there's nothing that can stop them from there. They are always at some point going to be redirected. Speaking of songs, there's a song you've performed, like Sala Emma, like that makes people go crazy. And I often wonder, what space were you in when you were conceptualizing the song? What was it? What made this song so special for you? Because it was special for so many of us.
I didn't know that the song would be special. I just thought it's one of those songs, So, because I had a lot of songs.
Yeah.
We recorded our first album, 1967, called Coming Home. Then from that album, we then took out a single, 7 single, Sala Emma. And up to now, I don't even know what made us to choose that song. It just came automatically. I think it's just how God planned it.
Yeah.
Because really, That song, when it came out, it became a blockbuster. It was it became a blockbuster, and it became a crossover. Because I'm saying a crossover because the lyrics were in Sotho, but the song was appreciated in Natal.
Yeah,
it was appreciated in Eastern Cape, even in Cape Town, where predominantly there are colours there. They would then, when we've got some shows there, they will shout it at me and say, "Hey man, speel sal amaraman," and so on. I remember 1969, we went to Lorenzo Max, before it was called 702. So we had shows there around the country. And remember, those people are Portuguese. So they would also appreciate that song. They would ask for encores all the way.
Yeah, and that's when you know that this is more than just a song. It's really become an anthem. In fact, it's still being appreciated to this day. So let's take a listen to this incredible song, Sala Emma by Babsy Mlangeni. I'm going to come with your calls, your WhatsApps as well. Do you have memories of listening to Babsy Mlangeni? What are your favorite songs? If you want to talk to him, feel free to call us as well.
It's one oh no, after me, Emma, after me, Salam, Emma, Usike Waitwenya, Kadi Puatama, Jubu, Wakamane Sulina Wahau, Yaute Pisa. Ibile kirapella ham Hurili rato la runalis que la fella Yeah, 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 yeah At the mela Kirutsware Emma Sooner. Salo, Sulina Wahau, Yaute Pisan, Halekila Katan, Ibile Kirapella Hang, Urili Ratola Runalis, Skela Fella. Yeah! chuchu mama tamela ke go sune Sala
Mwah. Oh, what a song. What a song. Aaron, you calling us from Sentin. Good morning.
Clement, how are you, man?
Good, man. How are you?
And good morning to all the listeners of 702.
Mm.
You know, at Clement, it reminds me the way back when I was at school. Babsy Mlangeni used to come to our school at Pulosho in Alex.
Mm.
They used to sing for us, and we were contributing that little bit of the money.
Mm.
But, you know, it was those days which we will never forget it in our lives.
Mm.
You know, yeah. Babsy?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. You know, you have made South Africa up.
Mm.
You and Steve Kekani. You know, you used to come to our school. By that time, we were still the youth, and we enjoyed your music. Thank you very much.
No, I really appreciate that.
Mm.
But remember, when I did that,
Mm.
it was for a reason. When you came out from Ethelon School for the blind,
Yeah.
there were a lot of blind guys roaming around in Soweto.
Mm.
Actually, normally, people were used to see children escorting old people to go and stand in corners and beg.
Yeah.
So people actually thought that blind people are just there to come to beg. There's nothing else they can do.
Mm.
So actually, in their minds, that as long as you're a blind person, there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can achieve.
Mm.
But I've proved them wrong.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of things that I did, didn't expect from a blind person.
Yeah. Even your longevity in the music industry.
Yes. I was lucky that I was this God-given talent to be able to write quality music and music with a message to South Africans at large.
Yeah. Let's go to Ezra, who's calling us from Davidton. Ezra, good morning.
Clement, how are you?
Great, brother. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. You are having a great legend, actually. Babsy Mlangeni. A very few of them that are left that can perform in both Sesotho and Nguni, and you won't even notice that. Even actors, we are losing them. Even last week we had like Kasha, people that can perform Sesotho and Nguni, and you won't even notice Thank you, Babsy Mlangeni.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ezra. Is that, I used to be jealous of people born in Soweto, Babsy, because I just think you guys had the best of different worlds. Like, you are able to, I've had friends who've grown up in Soweto that can converse Kasepedi or Sesotho. They can hear the Sotho languages, they can hear the Nguni languages. What was it for you? Was it the benefit of growing up there in Soweto, or were you more intentional about it?
No, in fact, with me it was even worse because I grew up in Cape Town. I didn't know Zulu well. I didn't know Sotho well. I mean, imagine going to school at the age of 8, 9 for so many years. And you just go home. You go home for about 3 weeks in June and 6 weeks in December. The rest, you are in Cape Town. So it's Afrikaans gepraat. Don't know I can save an Afrikaans praat as well.
I nearly said je kan me Afrikaans praat. That's now French. Ek kan bietjie Afrikaans verstaan.
Nee, ek praat sever Afrikaans.
Ja.
Maar dit begint te verdwyn nou, want met wie sal ek Afrikaans praat, want mense wil nie Afrikaans praat nie.
Okay, I don't know what you just said, but amen. It's 11:30. Let's get the latest eyewitness news headlines. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with the legendary, the iconic Babsy Mlangeni. Keep your calls coming on 011-883-0702 if you want to talk to him, if you want to wish him well. You can send your text as well there on 072-702-1702. Mbali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. A very good morning. The Government of National Unity will now conduct expenditure reviews on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget, aiming to ensure more efficient state spending. This was announced during a multi-party briefing a short while ago. Over the past few weeks, the parties have been engaged in lengthy discussions to resolve the budget deadlock, primarily driven by the proposed increase in value-added tax. Former President Jacob Zuma's bid to remove Advocate Billy Downer as lead prosecutor in the arms deal corruption case has once again been dismissed. Zuma and French arms company Thales are charged with fraud, corruption, money laundering and racketeering linked to an arms deal in the 1990s. And a small group of Umkhonto weSizwe party members are picketing outside the union buildings in Pretoria today over the arrival of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Zelensky will at this hour be welcomed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. He is in South Africa on a working visit, which is aimed at strengthening bilateral ties between the two countries. Those are the headlines this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Amo, how are the roads looking?
Well, if you're traveling in the Fourways area, Clement, we've got delays on Winnie Mandela Drive. This is between Witkoppen Road and the N1 exit. There's also slow-moving traffic on Main Reef Road. This is between the M2 exit and Crownwood Road. So if you're heading towards areas like Mayfair, please try to avoid Main Reef Road as well as the M2 West. In the city of Tshwane, we still have got that accident on the N1 North. It happened right near Linwood Road. It's causing delays coming out of the Flying Saucer interchange. Please be on the lookout there and try to avoid and drive with care. And remember to keep it safe on the roads. And it has been raining. Do keep a safe following distance, your headlights on, and avoid speeding. More updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Majestic handling. A V8 horsepower that is.
This is very annoying. I'm trying to read a car radio advertisement.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.co.za and let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.
Make every day awesome when you get the new Samsung Galaxy A56 5G from Vodacom, Mzansi's fastest 5G network. Get yours today on a 1.4 gig Red Core plan for only 429 Rand per month over 36 months. Enhance your deal when you add 49 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Tab A9. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
In just 10 years, over 850 million winners have shared more than 31 billion Rand with the National Lottery. That's not a dream, that's real money, won by real people, right here in Mzansi. So the question is, why not you? The next winner could come from your hometown. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6. Well, a report suggesting SAA is now proposing to the government that it will go looking for a strategic equity partner. The CEO at SAA is Professor John Lamola.
Last year in March, there was a major announcement that South African Airways will no longer be pursuing the Takato Aviation Strategic Equity Partnership transaction. And that secondly, SAA will no longer be dependent on the fiscals for its financial sustainability.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show on 702 with Stephen Grootes is proudly brought to you by ABSA CIB, honored by the 2025 Salter Awards. Your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
24 minutes before 12 o'clock. This is the Hanging Out feature. We're doing it in the last hour of the show today because we were dealing with breaking news in the first 2 hours of the show. So ordinarily we would have done this between 10 and 11 o'clock. Your calls are coming on 011-883-0702 as we continue this Hanging Out feature with Babsy Mlangeni. I do want us to play another song of his, but I also want us to know, like I'm sure you guys are wondering, what does he listen to when he's just chilling or he's taking a walk or they're driving somewhere? Hopefully we'll play about one or two of the other songs that are Babsy Mlangeni's favorites. Let me continue with your calls now. Let's start with you, Anne, in Midrand. Anne, good morning.
Morning to you, Clement Mlangeni. I remember one story, it's so nice to be talking to you. I remember nobody should judge me, nobody should laugh at me. It was around 86, 87, I just came back from church, from intercession, and I'm at home, and guess who comes at the door knocking? Ntate Mlangeni, my brother-in-law then. And I thought, no, this is not on. And I'm thinking, I just come from church. I just prayed. This opportunity for me to pray. Miracles going to happen here. This man's going to see now when I pray. And I continue praying for. He just looked at me and said, amen. And my brother say, amen. It was okay and normal. But you know what? In that time, I think for me, it was say God can do miracles. But I thank God that even today, in Ntate Mlangeni, you are still alive. You are still well. And we thank God that you are still a blessing. You are still a mentor to most of the people who are singing, most of us who are alive, that God's mercies and grace are new every morning. And that's what I wanted to say.
Amazing. Thank you. And John, you are in Katlehong. Hi.
Hi, how are you, Clement?
Sure, man. Go ahead.
All right. Babsy. Ja, laat ons dit bietjie Afrikaans praat. Dit is jou net nie van Katlehong.
Ja, ek hoor so, ja.
Ja, ek het gehoor dat Clement said jy kan nie verstaan Afrikaans, maar nee, laat ons praat.
You guys gossiping about me as I can.
Babsy. Ile ga una ta life o prepo ma life ko kwa. Hey, una le tine mo ke batla o ke ba itse mo ba re ke mampara man. Ka ba ka CD after. Yeah, ba itse ba.
I can see everything more in the playlist, but
yeah,
a lot of people bang kupa pinayo ya mampara and
yeah, is it? I'll try and find it for you guys to play.
That song is like somebody got 20,000 or something. He's a bag.
Yeah,
he just got it from the street. So instead, he took it to the police, and then the police just said thank you, and then he went. So Babsy says mampara because he's not sure if that money the police are going to to try to get it. Yeah. Okay, so in short, I'm just saying it's nice to honor our people still alive, and I wish I can try in my best. I'm also an artist, a dancer, but to have an honor, something just to say honoring of the past icons of the 80s, just a show of Black Cloud, PJ Powers, Irene Mawela, Bakers Africa, perhaps know some of those guys.
Yeah, true, John. John in Katlehong, thanks for the call. Gabriel, you're in Kempton Park. Hi.
Hi, Clement.
Hey, Gabriel.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
I just want to share the joy of my birthday today with a joke with Babsy.
Yeah.
I work for a Chapter 9 institution. I won't mention it.
Mm.
And there's a guy with the same surname, Mlangeni. And as we're in the kitchenette making our tea and chatting, he said something and made himself famous. I said to him, hey, you're not Babsy Wena. Don't make yourself famous.
There's only one famous Babsy.
Yes. And then he said, actually, his family, we are related. I'm just as famous.
Yeah. Utata my chance.
Yeah.
Gabriel, is it?
Guys, thanks for the night show.
Yeah, is it your birthday today?
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Gabriel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, Gabriel in Kempton Park. Thank you. Okay, let me take Bali quickly before we go to another song. Bali in Togoza. Hi.
Good morning, Clement.
Hey,
And the legend himself, Mr. Babsy Mlangeni.
Mm.
Yeah, I hear you, the previous caller talking about a birthday. You remind me of one of his albums in 1979. He released an album called Nancy Landlord. There's a song, the big song called Happy Birthday. I'm sure you remember that song, Mr. Babsy Mlangeni.
Mm.
Yeah, basically I wanted to say, yes.
Yeah, he remembers it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say people like him, a legend like him, I feel that now this current government, is not really honoring him or at least giving him his flowers while he's still there, And also, secondly, and try to be brief, there, that guy there you are with at the station, the hit maker, hit maker. And I remember back in the 70s, he used to feel all at the stadium alone with his band, all-rounders, just to show the kind of caliber of Mr. Babsy Mlangeni, Few people can fill up the stadium alone, but he will make it possible,
Yeah, Bali in Togoza. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got lots of calls and lots of messages here. People who are just showing appreciation from you, Babsy. What did you feel? I mean, when you were writing music, because as Bali says, you had a lot of hits. You had a lot of hits.
Plenty.
Were you under pressure every time because every time you work on an album, I'm sure you're thinking, is it going to land like, because when you were making hits like that as an artist, you are always under pressure to outperform yourself. You must do a better song than the last one.
I had my own way of doing things. Sometimes I'd go to where people are having drinks like Babarton. I go there and sit amongst those guys. Then I'll go to the Shabin Queen and say, how many cocos do you have there? Then we say, I've got 2, and just only 16 rand each. So then they'll talk a lot of things. So someone will say something that will give me an idea what to write about.
So would you note it in your mind, or you start taking out your notes, or you write? What's the process?
The first thing that you must get the what you call the idea. What are you going to sing about? I remember one day I was sitting there, then one drunk guy just got up and said, so when I thought to myself, when I got home, I decided to take my guitar and start to fiddling. And then I came, la la la, taken. Usavuga la, sasekseni, taken. It was scratched at the SABC. They said the song is too suggestive. But it, by God's grace, it turned gold without any airplay.
Wow.
So,
and airplay at that time, you were heavily reliant as artists on airplay.
Clement, there was a time between 77 and 84. I was the most famous artist in the country. I used to fill Orlando Stadium alone. You would think that Kaizer Chiefs and Pirates were having a
derby there.
A derby there, yes. And not only Orlando, throughout the country, in Tanzania, in this, Philip Smith in Durban, all over the place in Mpumalanga, all over, you find that just Babsy Mlangeni show, that's all.
Yeah, sure.
And I must also, before we are through with the show, I must at least give my children I must thank my children to look after me. Right now, they are looking after me. As you see, the way I'm dressed, they make sure that whenever I appear, I must appear presentable.
Yeah.
And when I'll always be grateful.
Yeah.
And they are also very, very grateful that God has kept me for so long. A lot of guys that I used to work with are all gone. From Kori Moraba, Steve Kekane, Peter Mkwena, Pet Shange, and Tsepo Tsula. They all died in 1 year. I'm still alive, and I don't know how did this COVID, it didn't come near me. Also, they say it's also God.
Yeah.
That's how God planned it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really incredible, and kudos to your children for the care that they're giving to you. And I'm so glad that even that appreciation you give, that those are blessings for them as well.
Yes.
Those are blessings for them as well. So that's really wonderful. Okay, we've got that song Bakai now. It's been loaded. So let's take a listen to it. That's Bakai by Babsy Mlangeni there. There's a question here, Babsy, from Atsepo, who says, as a visually impaired artist, what barriers or challenges did you specifically encounter, and how did you navigate the world that wasn't so always inclusive?
It was a problem because, firstly, as I told you when you started this program, that people in general just thought that there's nothing that blind people can achieve. And because I remember when I was going around trying to get a deal from these major recording companies like EMI, Gallows, True Tone, and RPM and all, I remember I went to EMI and the talent scout there was Robert Pupape. And I spoke to him. Then he said to me, Amar awubona ke? I said, yes, I'm blind. Then he said, "Utawopela jwang usabona?" You know. Then I said, "Mar, wa ikutlwa hore reng? Can you really hear yourself? Listen, have you ever seen eyes sing? So go about wa utlwa mahlo a opela mar wena. I mean, how? I mean, kante le rinka jwang? So he rejected me. So I went to Gallows. Mr. Nzimande gave me a tough time. He would say, wait for me, I'd get there around about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll leave the place at 4 o'clock. He would go for the whole day. I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I don't have money. And I'll then go back home. But, you know, it was just tough. I had to, what really helped me is that I'm a go-getter. I don't give up easily. So when there's a certain guy by the name of Mandlas Beer who used to work for Radio Bantu or Radio Zulu then. So he decided to resign from Radio Bantu. Which is now today called Ukosi. And he came to my place in Dube and said, Eamon, I've just got a job from RPM. I would like to get some few artists to record. I said, thanks. So I went to my fellow guys and my fellow musicians. Debana, we've got a deal. So we then recorded where then Salah Emma was born.
Yeah, and the rest now
The rest
is
is
history. Gabriel, you're in Soweto. Ooh, please switch off the radio, Gabriel. You're calling us from Soweto. Good morning. Okay, I'll come back to you, Gabriel, after you've switched off your radio there. Olisi, you are in Springs. Good morning.
Good day to you, Clement.
Hi, go ahead.
Yes, good day to you. Yeah, sure, Babsy. I've got almost all the LPs when we were still playing the LPs, not even the CDs. Yeah. So I've got the whole collection of Babsy. He's a great guy. I'm just gonna do this quickly. Here's my favorite one. When he says when he hit that one, it kills me.
Yeah.
I still remember that one.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the one in the background?
Yeah.
I will find it if Policy had played because other listeners won't be able to hear that. Okaba Okaya Moratu. All right, Gabriel, you've switched off your radio now. Can you hear us now? Good morning.
I can hear you.
Sure.
How are you, sir?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm okay, man. I still remember you. I think it was 1964, if I'm not mistaken. There's a school next to where I stay. You and your friends, you came there to play for the little ones. Remember, Return to Sender. I still when I first heard that song sung by Elvis, and it reminded me of you. Hey, man, you are a star, man. And I also remember Jabulani Amphitheatre. You used to fill that stadium alone. Oh, you know.
Those were the days, Gabriel.
Those were the days.
Thank you for calling us, Gabriel in Soweto. Brasipo Hot Sticks. Good morning.
Hey, man. Clement.
Hey, Tada.
Hey, bro, Babsy.
Hey, Tasipo, who you are?
All right, bro, Babsy, how are you?
I'm all right, my brother, man.
It's good to hear you talking on 702, man. Let men love South African music. You know, Clement, we had all been inspired by this, this great singer, Babsy. He must tell you about the Beaters and the in-laws, how we formed an organization together called, when they call a black empowerment, we empowered ourselves as a group, the three of us, the all-rounders, the Beaters, and the in-laws. And we created a great relationship. Sadly, many of the members died, but also some of the members went to exile to join the armed struggle. So Babsy always tells a story that when he wanted to leave the country, they said, no, he's blind. And he said, no, you just lead me on, I'll shoot him. I think you must tell the story.
Thank you, Babsy, for hosting. Thanks for the call. Please tell us that story.
Yeah, we were in Swaziland, and then we had some shows there for a month or two. We used to have a contract for a month. So this guy, Koloi's brother, Miki, decided to and Opa, there were two guys who decided to go and do whatever they want to do with the guys at the other side. So he told me that, I'm not going back to South Africa, I'm leaving. I said, no, you can't leave me behind, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go with you, I'll see what I can do when I get there. He said, no, what are you going to do? I said, no, man. You just give me the bazooka. Or I'll just shoot. You just tell me what to show me the direction.
And then you're just going to shoot.
Yeah. Then I said, but then if I'm not, I can be in the communication the department, for argument's sake.
Oh, I'm just so impressed by that drive. Just to be part of something so
you know
big.
What we used to do with Sipho and them, we had our trucks that used to carry our instruments.
Yeah.
So these guys who want to flee the country would then ask us to hide them amongst the instruments. So we'll put a sail over the instruments for the dust.
Wow.
So when you get to the border, those guys will just be interested in playing the drums. They will never go in there and check out. And mind you, outside it's written Babsy Mlangeni.
Yeah.
So they would just assume that there's nothing wrong with us. Can't we referring these guys to the other side?
Babsy, thank you so much for coming through. This was so much fun hanging out with you. And this was just us also just appreciating you and thanking you for your artistry, your talent, for wonderful music over the years.
If you could know, if you should know how much do I appreciate this. Because you see, sometimes they would say, let's say I'm in a wedding or funeral or something like that. Some people don't see me immediately up until one person recognizes me and say, Babsy, how's it there? Then they will all stand up. Oh, is this him?
Is this him? Yeah.
They will say, oh, usaphila lo muntu.
Yeah, no.
Now, 702, at least you keep my, you keep me alive,
Yeah.
Because the people think that I'm long gone.
Yeah.
And yet here am I speaking to Clement right now.
You're still here, and we really appreciate you.
I really appreciate that. I hope we can do this again.
I hope you can come back. I've had so much fun.
Because there's a lot of things that we didn't talk about.
We'll bring you back. We'll have part 2 of this.
Yeah.
It's a minute now before 12.
When using the road, please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. Ventertop Road in Northwest, R61 Tata in Eastern Cape, N2 Pongola in KwaZulu-Natal, R61 Nzamba in Eastern Cape, N2 Umkomas in Eastern Cape. Ensure that you, your loved ones, and all passengers arrive alive. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Betway's exclusive new games are taking the world by storm. Featuring massive Megaways jackpots. Take your shot on Cash and Riches, Wolf Blaze, Gallo Gold Brunos,
and many more incredible experiences for you to choose from. You're guaranteed to find a new ultra fun favorite. Get way more only at Betway. Betway is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. NRGP counseling line 0800 006 008. All events are fixed odds betting games.
As an essential part of our homes, our bathrooms are sometimes forgotten. Show some love to your bathroom this Easter season. Visit your nearest Cash Build and shop for new shower doors, a fresh set of tap mixers, and a shower head. Even a new set of tiles. Cash Build has everything you need to build a perfect bathroom. Cash Build, quality building materials, tools, paint, and hardware at the lowest prices. Cash Build.
This Freedom Month, 702 and Omoda invites you to an unforgettable celebration of democracy, heritage, and the soul-stirring rhythm of jazz. Join us on the 30th of April to honor International Jazz Day at the iconic Sanctuary Mandela. A Jazz Appreciation Month culminates. We pay tribute to the music that tells our stories, holds our history, and inspires our future. The experience includes live performance from jazz greats Fea Faku, Hebi Tswali, Ziza, Maftik, a gourmet 3-course meal to delight the scenes, and a guided tour of the historic Sanctuary Mandela. Limited tickets available at www.ticketmaster.co.za. Thank you for listening to the Thursday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. The Midday Report is up next. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Mbali Dlamini. The Government of National Unity will now conduct expenditure reviews on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's budget, aiming to ensure more efficient state spending. This was announced during a multi-party briefing a short while ago. Over the past few weeks, the parties have been engaged in lengthy discussions to resolve the budget deadlock, primarily driven by the proposed increase in value-added tax. Although National Treasury officially withdrew the proposed 0.5 percentage point VAT hike